across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. What a day. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get stuck in, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, June the 11th. Here's what's coming up. Sensation as Defence Secretary John Healey resigns on principle and tells Starmer he's quitting because he's being forced to make decisions that imperil the safety of the nation. Healey's shock exit comes as Labour's left-wing lunatics continue to refuse to cut the grotesquely vast welfare bill, and after crazy Ed Miliband this week made it clear that he was not prepared to give up a penny of his nut-zero budget to help defence. Only a few days ago, Tootia Keir delivered an impassioned speech saying that the safety of the nation was his government's most important sacred duty. How hollow this weakling Prime Minister's weasel words sound now. 0344 499 1000. This must surely spell the end for Britain's worst leader in living memory, including Liz Truss. If he held out any slim hopes of number 10 survival, they've gone up in smoke with a bombshell resignation that sent shockwaves reverberating through Westminster, bereft of all credibility should Starmer also resign. Like now. 0344 499 1000. In other news, Belfast continues to burn amid more astonishing revelations about the Sudanese migrant charged with the attempted beheading of his victim on Monday night. His asylum claim in 2023, it transpires, was rushed through under Rishi Sunak's fast-track scheme aimed at reducing the backlog by basically letting foreigners stay, no questions asked. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. Plus, jaw-dropping statistics as it is revealed that last year 107,000 migrants were arrested for offences. That's 1 every 3 minutes. What are we doing to our country? We've imported a crime wave, a foreigners' crime wave. This is insanity. We'll also be covering the World Cup, first day of the World Cup. The BBC, they've gone all the way to Salford to cover that event, that massive, the greatest sporting event in sport. They've gone all the way to Salford in Manchester to cover that event in America and Mexico. What the hell is the state broadcaster doing? They send 500 staff to cover Glastonbury, but they can't set up a studio in New York or LA or somewhere in America. Why can't they do that? ITV have got a fantastic rooftop Manhattan studio. Gary Lineker's over there. Amazing studio. Fantastic coverage. Doing it for Netflix. He's the former BBC man. He said the BBC's Salford studio looks like a green box. For once, I agree with Lineker. I agree with Gary. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Plus, also, officials at asylum seeker detention centres. These are asylum seekers, migrants who failed in their bid to stay in this country, the rare few that we actually deport back home. Officials who work in these detention centres have been told, immigration officials I'm talking about, have been told not to wear England World Cup badges because that will intimidate the migrants. Councils are also telling residents not to fly national flags in the World Cup because that will intimidate migrants. What's going on? What's going on? I mean, you know, migrants, if you're here legally, you're welcome. You know, what the hell? We let too many in, but that's not the point. You know, I've got no truck with migrants, but don't tell me not to fly my national flag because it might upset foreigners who've chosen to live here. Come on. 03444991000. Kinsey Schofield joins me at the end of the show to discuss the latest news from Planet Royal. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday afternoon together, and I'm very pleased that we've managed to snaffle the best man in politics, the most wise man in Westminster. He is a former political editor of the Sun newspaper, Trevor Kavanagh, still a columnist, of course, for that fine publication. Trevor, had to get you on. Well, your thoughts. I mean, this must surely be the end. This must spell the end for Starmer.
We've had so many of these catastrophes, Kevin. I don't think it will on its own. John Healey is one of the most loyal and dedicated old-style Labour politicians in the government. And it would have taken a hell of a lot to persuade him to give up his lifelong ambition to be Defence Secretary and just simply resign. He's been driven to this by the most appalling Prime Minister, who thoroughly deserves to go and did deserve to go some year or more ago. But he won't go. The thing is that he has, possibly more than anyone else could have done, has skewered Starmer as a liar and a cheat and a deceitful politician. When he made that speech saying that defence of the realm was his #1 priority, he was telling the truth. It is the duty of any government to defend the country, and he is not doing so.
Yeah, shall we remind ourselves of that speech? It was just a few days ago. The Prime Minister stared the nation in the face and said this.
It reminds me of something that I hold fast to every single day as Prime Minister, and that is that my first duty, the duty above everything else, is to keep our country safe and to keep our people safe. That is the top, most important duty of any Prime Minister, and it's the one, as I say, that I hold very, very close every single day.
Oh, shut up, you pathetic little man. The fact of the matter is, Trevor, that we continue to have a government that's essentially controlled by left-wing lunatics who refuse to take a penny away from our grotesquely bloated welfare budget, which runs at about £350 billion a year and rising. They won't take a penny of that to help defence. And this week, just a couple of days ago, we learnt that Ed Miliband, Crazy Ed, the Nut Zero secretary, refused point blank to hand a penny over from his mad campaign to turn Britain into a sea of windmills and solar panels. He won't give a penny to defence either. And I also read that at the end of last week, a desperate Prime Minister, that pathetic little man, Keir Starmer, in a cabinet meeting, was effectively going round the cabinet to each department chief, each cabinet secretary, with a begging bowl. Are there a few pennies you can find me? I need to give some money to defence. This is unbelievable. So there he is saying, oh, it's my sacred duty. It's the first responsibility of my government is to keep the nation safe. John Healey resigned because he said, you're forcing me to pursue policies that endanger the safety of this nation. Exactly the opposite of what Starmer said. This is a catastrophe.
Yes, and the figures that were quoted by John Healey in his resignation letter devastatingly prove the point. Here we are in a position where defence chiefs and the analysis of the government's own defence investment plan, announced or at least spearheaded by former Defence Secretary George Robertson, now Lord Robertson, former NATO chief, etc. He then, at that time last year, accused the government of corrosive complacency when it came to defence. We now know that instead of 28 billion now, we are likely to get an increase in spending of less than 1% between now and the end of this decade. That's over the next 3 or 4 years. We need urgent spending on not just troops, but on equipment, on air defences, on drones, on all the sort of technology that we are now way behind. And one of the reasons that this government or this cabinet will not countenance any extra spending at all is because they do not perceive either the Chinese government or the Russian government as real threats to this country, because they are left-wing dictatorships, effectively. So they do not recognize them as a clear and present danger, which is exactly what John Healey described them as.
Quite. Now, we've now been in these perilous times. You know, the world has never been more perilous for probably since the Second World War. So much trouble, you know, the Iran war, the rise of China, of course, Russia, Ukraine. Never have we been in such danger for decades, best part of 100 years. And for 4 hours now, and counting, Trevor, we have not had a defence secretary. I mean, who's going to take that job? And the danger is, of course, well, the inevitability is whoever does end up taking that job will probably be someone that we've never heard of, or it'll be a reshuffled person, but their mandate will be to do what they're told and accept the left-wing lunatics who say we must spend all our money on nut zero and welfare. So we're going to get a patsy who will continue to put this nation in extreme danger.
Yes, and the pattern has already been set by the man appointed to succeed Wes Streeting as Health Secretary, a man who is so anonymous I can't even remember his name. And he is a wet reed coming in to do a major job of readjusting our health budget, our whole system of NHS care, and he is not up to the job. And he will simply be bulldozed by the trade unions and the public sector workforce, and the same will apply to the person coming in to fill the bill on defence, because quite clearly, even though John Healey was a man who was dedicated to the task and was widely liked and respected in the party, he couldn't wheedle an extra penny out of the Treasury.
Exactly. Now, the Health Secretary is James Murray, a diminutive little man who looks like a cross between an undertaker and an accountant, possibly with a bit of a librarian mixed in, and he has all the charisma of an earthworm. These are the people who are assuming the great offices of state. This government is falling apart at the seams, Trevor.
Yes, and I think that the likelihood of Andy Burnham winning Makerfield and becoming eventually, through a huge amount of bloodletting, the next Prime Minister is going to be no better. I mean, he is committed to more left-wing policies, more welfare spending, and more support for the likes of Ed Miliband and the madness of oh God, I'm losing track of who's who, our former Deputy Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So, you know, we are not in for any improvements in the near term. We are going to go further down the road to ruin.
Yeah, Lammy, Angela Rayner, I mean, these are all minnows, these people, aren't they? Whatever happened to, you know, the politicians of the past? They, you know, even if you didn't agree with them, they were people of stature. This lot, I mean, God, they're pathetic, aren't they?
Yes, and as I keep saying, we've got 3 and a bit more years left of them, because they're certainly not going to hold a general election, which would risk them being swept away, which is the inevitability when it does happen. This government is destroying not just the country, but the Labour Party and our futures and our children's futures. And you'll come to immigration in a moment, but this is one of the areas where we desperately need proper spending, proper management, proper authority at the highest levels, and we're failing on all those counts.
Yeah, let's quickly, you know, go back to, well, the migrant crisis and, of course, Northern Ireland. I mean, what do you make of this today, Trevor, that we learnt that this Sudanese migrant charged with the Belfast beheading was granted asylum under Rishi Sunak's fast-track scheme, which basically meant that he didn't actually talk to anyone. He just had to fill in a 10-page form. And this fast-track asylum system was brought in to reduce the backlog. So in other words, to reduce the backlog, Rishi Sunak, and of course subsequent administrations have embraced this, decided that, well, what we'll do is we'll just let people come in and just say you can stay, because that will reduce the backlog. I mean, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, it's also deeply depressing that the Conservative government, which I must admit I thought would be at least better than Labour, is just as bad, or was just as bad. I mean, the idea of allowing a million extra migrants in under Boris Johnson's regime, whether they are legal or illegal is irrelevant. They are here, and one of the reasons that immigration is coming down is not because of measures adopted by this government to keep immigrants out, but because British citizens are leaving in their droves. Young, productive, brain drain type characters are leaving to work in Australia and Canada and anywhere but Britain, frankly. So, yes, this is a terrible indictment of the last government. It's also a terrible indictment of the current one.
What's to be done about this, the common travel area between Ireland and Northern Ireland? Effectively, that's the border between the UK and the EU. And it turns out that this is just the way you can get in, no questions asked again. This is getting ridiculous. Let me ask you about, this is what I really want to ask you, Trevor, as a seasoned observer of the political scene. Have you ever seen a government that gaslights the public quite so much as this one? I mean, last week, while we all cry, this poor kid, Henry Novak, is the victim quite clearly of two-tier policing. Coppers so terrified of accusations of racism that they put allegations of racism above a kid stabbed to death, dying on the pavement, and arrested him. And so we see this. We see it all written down. We know there's two-tier policing. Coppers are told to treat ethnic members of different communities in different ways, and we know how that checks out, that they basically favour anybody who isn't white. We take last place, white people. They stare us in the face and say, no, there's no such thing as two-tier policing. Also, with the alleged attempted beheading on Monday, neither Starmer nor the Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn or any of the cabinet have in any way mentioned the migrant crisis, because that attempted beheading was a direct result of the migrant crisis. That guy should not have been here. He was waved in, no questions asked. That's why that happened, because if he wasn't here, that beheading, or that attempted beheading, allegedly could not have happened. And yet, what do we get? What do we get from this lot? They go, oh, we won't tolerate such scenes of extreme violence on the streets of Britain, blah, 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 and they extract the whole point of this scandal. The point of this scandal is that shocking incident on the streets of a British city was due to the migrant crisis. This government gaslight us and say, well, if you think that, you're racists.
Well, sadly, Kevin, I think that we have seen the beginning of what may turn out to be a major crisis in relations in this country, which will be impossible to put back in the box. It's all kicked off in Northern Ireland in a way which presages similar outbursts of anger or rage or violence, whichever way you want to look at it, in this country. And I don't think it's going to be possible to put a cap on it simply by saying that we must not talk about it. And this is now a culmination of 25 years of a completely chaotic asylum and immigration policy, started by Tony Blair in the days when he opened all the borders to any people who wanted to come from the European Union or further afield. And we are now paying the price of predictable clashes between the communities, as we have actually fueled the flames by bringing in laws which prevent anyone discussing it without being accused of being racist, xenophobic, or just deplorable. And that in itself fuels the flames of the sort of things we're seeing in Belfast. And okay, it is appalling to see people hurling rocks at police doing their duty and all of those things. But It is the inevitable corollary to what's been happening over the last 25 years. We've been silenced, gagged, insulted, and abused for even daring to suggest that this was not a good idea at the beginning, that multiculturalism was a disaster, that accusing everybody of being a racist was simply turning them into racists. I think that this is insoluble. It's kicked off and it's not going to stop.
It's a terrible situation, but them denying, just staring us in the face and saying, no, no, you're wrong, and if you think that, you're far-right racist, that's just a recipe for much more social unrest. It's a shocking situation. Trevor, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time. Trevor Kavanagh there, columnist at The Sun newspaper, a serious Westminster veteran with his views on the shock news that Defence Secretary, or former Defence Secretary, now John Healey, has resigned, saying that he's been forced to pursue policies that endanger the nation. In other words, he hasn't got enough money. He can't fund the forces. He can't fund our defence forces. Shocking. Next up, we're going to talk to somebody who knows a thing or two about defence and government. He is former Tory Cabinet Minister Gerald Howarth. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now 4.5 hours since we had a Defence Secretary. This country has no one in charge of defence after the shock resignation of John Healey. You better get a move on, Keir. The world is in a turbulent state, so please can we have a Defence Secretary? Might be a thought, mightn't it? Let's talk to someone who knows a little bit about this. He's a former Conservative Minister for International Security Strategy, very much in the MOD realm. So welcome to Sir Gerald Howarth. Hello, Gerald.
Good afternoon, Kevin. If I may just say at the outset, I agree with every word that Trevor Kavanagh has just told your programme. He is a very serious, long-standing commentator, and people should take very seriously what Trevor's just said.
Yeah, I was desperate to get him on, as I was desperate to get you on as well.
Oh, very kind.
No, I'm serious. Your thoughts? I mean, John Healey, I think, emerges from this as a man of principle. His whole career, his ambition was always to be Defence Secretary, and he's resigned because he says that he's been forced to pursue policies that imperil the safety of this nation. There is no worse indictment of this Prime Minister and this government than that, is there?
No, this is a complete exocet at the engine room of His Majesty's government. It is a seismic moment for having the Secretary of State for Defence resign in the midst of two wars which are taking place, one on our doorstep in Ukraine, when as former Secretary General of NATO, former occupant of the role that has been taken by John Healey up until now, Lord Robertson, architect of the 1997 Defence Review and of the most recent Defence Review, he said in Salisbury recently, we are underprepared, we are underinsured, we are under attack, and we are not safe. This comes from a former Secretary General of NATO, a former Secretary of State for Defence in a Labour government. So to have the Secretary of State, John Healey, resign now is a massive indictment, both of the Prime Minister and, of course, of the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Treasury officials who have refused to fund the defence of the realm as it is required by those who see the threats that we face.
Exactly. So, of course, we know that the lunatic left-wingers who essentially control our Prime Minister, the backbenchers, and indeed some members of the Cabinet, they refuse in any way to cut back our grotesquely bloated welfare bill, which currently stands at about £350 billion a year and rising. They won't cut that back by a penny to help fund.
Not a penny, no. And indeed,
defense.
if you remember, when they tried to cut back on $5 billion, there was an outrage on the Labour backbenches, and the Prime Minister retreated. He has form in retreating. The number of U-turns, I think, is virtually approaching 20 now that this Prime Minister has made in just under 2 years as leader of our country. And it is absolutely appalling. But the welfare bill has got to be tackled. Again, Lord Robertson said we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare budget. It is absolutely absurd. It is not good for the British people. It's not good for young people to leave school and university and then go on the dole. People have got to work in this country. The benefits bill has got to be cut. And it's very, very interesting. When those Mandelson papers were released just about 10 days ago, do you remember that it exposed one from Pat McFadden, perfectly decent chap? Pat McFadden said that every meeting that he had with Labour backbenchers centred on who can we tax in order to pay benefits to others. What an indictment of this government and all those Labour MPs sitting behind the Prime Minister, with a number of honourable exceptions, to which list has been added today John Healey, who has resigned on a point of principle. And my only question is, what on earth are his other ministers still doing in the Ministry of Defence? Why is Colonel Al Carnes, late the Royal Marines, DSO and MC, why has he remained in government? Why has he not resigned? He has heard at first hand the complaints of our armed forces, the complaints of the Chief of the Defence Staff that we simply cannot defend ourselves. These are very, very serious times. It is almost as though we are back to the 1930s and we have a government which is completely riven and is dictated to by people who want to spend money on welfare and not on the defence of the realm.
Yeah, here's the problem. This Labour lot are so wedded to their ideology, their socialist ideology, that takes precedence over the realities of running a country. And we learned that last week in a cabinet meeting, this is pathetic to behold, the Prime Minister, who realised, I've got to get some money for defence, no Cabinet Secretary was prepared to give him a penny, as we just heard about the welfare situation. He went round the Cabinet talking to Secretaries of State saying, have you got any money you can give me, because I need to give some to defence. And Ed Miliband in particular put his foot down and said, from my mad nut zero budget, you are not getting a penny. So ideology socialist ideology, energy policy ideology, green claptrap is taking precedence over the realities. You know about this, Gerald, the realities that you have to confront if you're to run a country properly. And they're not running this country properly. They're letting us all down as a nation.
Well, again, Jeff Hoon, former Secretary of State, Labour Secretary of State for Defence, and if I may say, a good friend of mine, Jeff Hoon has said today that it's not a time when the public will welcome more increases in taxation, which is a polite way of saying that basically the government, the people of Britain have had enough of Rachel Reeves' theft from their pockets. So there's no money to be raised from taxation. But you mentioned Ed Miliband, the deranged Minister for Net Zero, whatever it's called.
That's a nice way of putting it.
You know,
the man's insane. He's insane.
Yes, I know Ed Miliband. I served in Parliament with him. He's perfectly decent guy, but he's completely stark, staring bonkers. You know, it is madness to crucify ourselves on the altar of net zero. We are crucifying householders with high energy bills. We are crucifying the industry of this country. We've just seen one of the greatest pottery companies, 217 years standing, Denby Potteries. We have Denby Pottery in the kitchen next door, gone out of business this week because of the insane high price of electricity driven by Ed Miliband, this Labour government, and their obsession with net zero. If we scrap net zero, I understand I think there's an article in the Daily Telegraph today, I haven't read it, but I'm told by somebody today that that he plans to spend another £60 billion between now and 2030. That's just 3.5 years away. Scrap that. You are in charge, Sir Keir Starmer. You are not only Prime Minister, you are First Lord of the Treasury. You sit above the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She is the second Lord of the Treasury. You are the First Lord of the Treasury. You should be standing firm and saying, as you have done repeatedly, we need to spend more on defense because this country is in danger. And you tell your Secretary of State for Net Zero, etc., that he can no longer have that 60 billion. It is going to go to the defence of the United Kingdom.
I would scrap net zero altogether. That will pay for a defence budget that will return safety to this nation.
Well, it will help. You know, Kevin, it will help. But let's be under no misunderstanding. All the reports I hear of the availability of kit. I mean, we were demeaned. We were humiliated when President Trump wanted us to contribute one naval asset. We could not contribute one ship to send to the Gulf to try to protect shipping there. We had to cobble together a Type 45 destroyer, which was in deep maintenance, and hurriedly put that to sea. It then broke down. Princess of Wales has broken down. Aircraft for training are not available. A couple of years ago, the one of the defence ministers in the Tory government said that the Hawk had between 19 and 38% availability for training. We can't go on like this. There are no spares.
I'll tell you what, Gerald, whatever happened to Britannia ruled the waves. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Really good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. Sir Gerald Howarth there, former Conservative Minister for International Security Strategy, who worked in the Ministry of Defence. What's going on, folks? Let me know. 03444991000. This is a crisis. This is an emergency. We don't have a Defence Secretary. The world is in a perilous state. Hasn't been so perilous probably since the Second World War, and we don't even have a Defence Secretary. The one we did had just resigned because they wouldn't give him enough money to fund our armed forces. That's a disgrace. 03444991000. Well, we'll talk to someone who knows a thing or two about the armed forces, Colonel James Sunderland, next. Also, of course, he's the former Tory MP for Bracknell. We'll get his take on it, but I also want to talk to him about something to do with the World Cup. It's quite shocking, so stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Before we go over to my next guest, Colonel James Sunderland, here's a voice note from Ian on John Healey, who has just resigned as Defence Secretary, of course.
In light of Healey's resignation, what we need is all the chiefs of staff, the army, head of armed forces, to resign also, because someone needs to take a stance. Now, I don't particularly I know nothing about John Healey. I don't dislike or like him. I suspect he's as incompetent as the rest of them, to be honest with you. But now's the time for everyone else to stand up and resign and make it, you know, a collective effort to show Starmer this is unacceptable. And they're the only people who can do anything about it, because at the ballot box, we're told one thing, which is actually a pack of lies. And whoever voted for Labour should be ashamed of themselves. They must be crazy.
Yeah, good voice note there from Ian on John Healey. Let me know what you think about what he's done. He's resigned, put it in a letter to Keir Starmer saying, I've been forced to follow policies that I believe, I'm paraphrasing, that I believe imperil this nation. In other words, that he can't get enough money. He couldn't get enough money from Starmer, from the national budget, to fund our armed forces adequately. So he felt that the policies of this government were endangering this nation. Let's remind ourselves, shall we, of what Keir Starmer said just a few days ago. Let's have a look at this.
It reminds me of something that I hold fast to every single day as Prime Minister, and that is that my first duty, the duty above everything else, is to keep our country safe and to keep our people safe. That is the top, most important duty of any Prime Minister, and it's the one, as I say, that I hold very, very close every single day.
Yeah, well, John Healey might have something to say about that. John Healey's letter and the reason for him resigning directly contradicts what Starmer is saying. We know why John Healey couldn't get any money, because this government has opted to spend £350 billion a year on welfare, and Ed Miliband, who wants 60 billion quid in the next 3 years to fund his windmills and his solar panels and his green claptrap madness, and has already spent fortunes, won't give across a single penny to help defence and to pay for the forces we need to keep this nation safe. As far as he's concerned, you know, saving the planet. Saving the planet? What about saving the country? Let's talk now to former Tory MP and obviously former soldier as well, Colonel James Sunderland. James, I do want to ask you a couple of questions about the World Cup, which I think are quite shocking, but obviously the story of the day is that the Defence Secretary, John Healey, has just resigned, proving himself, I think, to his credit, to be a man of principle. And I think he's absolutely boiled over in frustration about this government, this Labour government, which is effectively controlled by these left-wing lunatic backbenchers, prioritising welfare and migrants over defence. We are spending £350 billion a year on welfare, and the backbench MPs won't let Keir Starmer divert a penny of that to defence. Meanwhile, Ed Miliband, who trundles through tens of billions of pounds every year, he won't give a penny to defence. He made that clear in a cabinet meeting last week. I mean, this is catastrophic, isn't it?
Kevin, good afternoon. It is catastrophic. If you want a definition of madness, it's this government. What a massive shame that Labour today has lost a good Defence Secretary.
Agreed.
Now, I'm a Conservative politician. I play with a straight bat, though. John Healey and I were great friends when I was serving in Westminster. He's got a good team around him. And actually, I like John, and I think John's reputation has gone up today because he's been willing to sacrifice his career and to resign on a matter of principle. But the bottom line is this: he has clearly got a relationship with the service chiefs. He's clearly been lobbied by them for more money. He sees the threat assessments. He sees the intelligence. He sees things on a daily basis that none of us do. And the fact that he's resigned on a matter of principle because we haven't got enough money, or rather the Treasury won't give the country enough money to defend itself, is really quite stark.
It really, really is. And what do you think this means? I mean, you know, we've now been 4 3/4 hours without a defence secretary at this perilous moment in world history. The world has never been more turbulent, probably since the Second World War, and we don't currently even have a defence secretary. And the frightening thing is, of course, the next defence secretary that we do get, it may be someone we've never heard of, or it may be somebody who's shuffled into that position, will be, by definition, a patsy whose mandate will be to go along with the continuing bloated, grotesque welfare budget and not to bother Ed Miliband for any money from his nut zero budget and so on and so forth. He'll have to do what he's told, which will even further endanger this nation. It is terrifying, James.
I totally agree with that. If you were Keir Starmer right now and you just lost your defence secretary on a matter of principle and a matter of money, you'd be making pretty sure that the person that replaces him is not going to do the same thing. In other words, somebody who's going to be trotting out the party line, not asking for more money, is going to be told to keep their mouth shut. The list goes on. I mean, there are a number of good military people in government at the moment. Luke Pollard, he's the Armed Forces Minister, but not military, so he could be a favourite. Dan Jarvis, former Parachute Regiment officer. Al Khan's the current Armed Forces Minister, I think. So he's got the credentials to do it. But ultimately, right now, would you want a military guy in there or a party political animal?
I'd like a military guy in, but I would suggest that self-respecting military politicians or politicians with military backgrounds who've served in the forces would fear that if they took this defence secretary role under Starmer, they would pretty soon end up letting down all their military colleagues because they wouldn't be able to give them any money to fund our armed forces. So I think that is a problem. Do you mind if we just swiftly moved on? Because I do want to get you on this. This is extraordinary. Detention centres where we, you know, I know it's surprising, but we do actually sometimes deport failed asylum seekers. Not many of them, but now and again. We have these detention centres by airports. We've got one at Heathrow, Gatwick, and so on and so on. Hundreds of failed asylum seekers, migrants about to be deported back to their home countries. Immigration officials who work at these detention centres have been warned not to wear World Cup England badges because that will intimidate the migrants. Meanwhile, in the West Country, councils throughout the West are telling residents not to fly St George Cross flags to support our England World Cup team because that might intimidate the local migrant population. You know, stop the world, James. I want to get off. It's gone mad.
Completely and utterly mad. This is the World Cup. This is the greatest cup competition in the world. I mean, the football's huge. The Premier League is the biggest football league in the world. And here we have a situation where people are telling us not to support our own nation in the World Cup. I mean, it's wokeism gone completely and utterly mad. Now, look, there's a simple way of dealing with this. If you come to the UK, you surely need to respect the UK's traditions and principles, respect the fact that football's a national sport, respect the fact that people have the liberty and the right to support whoever they want. So for these councils to be saying don't wave the flag, for these immigration officials to be told don't wave the flag, it is categoric nonsense. And actually, to be honest with you, sometimes I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that there are people amongst us who serve to control us, who seek to control us, who seek to influence how we think, who seek to try and, you know, and somehow inhibit our patriotism as proud Brits. It is absolute nonsense. Couldn't agree with you more, James. James, thanks for coming on. Come on again soon. That's the excellent Colonel James Sunderland, former Tory MP for Bracknell, and of course a military expert, former soldier as well. Let me know what you think about that. Councils throughout the West Country are telling residents, don't you dare fly the St George's Cross. Don't you hang that from your balcony or from your windows. That will intimidate the local migrants. Meanwhile, at detention centres, people about to be deported, illegal migrants about to be deported, immigration officials who work for the government, don't you wear badges for the World Cup, England World Cup team. That will intimidate these immigrant rejects, these people that we're going to send back to them. What is going on, folks? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. We're going to talk about another World Cup madness next. That's our state broadcaster, the BBC, that gets £3.5 billion a year from TV licence fee money, and it is not going to have a studio in America or Mexico to cover the World Cup, the world's greatest sporting event, and it is going to cover it from Salford. ITV is shaming the state broadcaster with a fabulous rooftop studio in Manhattan, and Gary Lineker is preening himself in a beautiful Netflix studio in New York, and he's laughing at the BBC, saying their studio looks like a green box. For once in my life, I agree with Gary. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Why on earth are the BBC, why haven't they got a studio in America? BBC should have 2 or 3 studios, one in Mexico City as well. It's the BBC, £3.5 billion a year of taxpayers' money, you know, TV licence fee payer money. You know, use some of it to cover the greatest sporting event in the world properly. Instead, they're going to cover it from Salford, part of Manchester. The people in Salford won't like that, but it's in Manchester, isn't it? What the hell's going on? It's ridiculous. Let's talk to journalist and broadcaster. He a massive England fan as well. Robert Taylor. Hi, Robert.
Hello, Kevin. How are you?
I'm OK. What do you make of this decision? It's absolutely bizarre. I mean, this is the BBC. They send 500 staff to cover Glastonbury, and yet, unlike ITV, which has a fantastic studio there, Netflix, Gary Lineker's got a beautiful studio in Manhattan, New York. We're going to cover, or the BBC's going to cover it from Salford. What are they thinking?
I know, it's really depressing, isn't it? And I watched the England coverage on ITV last night, which was delayed by lightning storms. So the kickoff wasn't until 10 p.m. our time. I stayed up all night, until midnight to watch it. And it was brilliant. Their studio overlooking New York is one of the best footballing studios I think I've ever seen. It is fantastic. Obviously, I haven't seen the BBC one yet because I don't think, has anyone seen it yet? But
well, I think they have to an extent because, we've got a little bit of it. And Gary Lineker, who's luxuriating in his fabulous Netflix studio in New York, says that the BBC, his former bosses, of course, he said their studio looks like a green box. But here's Ian Wright, absolutely loving ITV's it's a fantastic studio, rooftop in Manhattan. We'll have a look at that and listen to Ian Wright.
Make a real point, and this is
definitely not AI.
It's not AI.
That's definitely not AI when the yellow New York cabs are hooting like that, because they can hoot better than anybody.
Absolutely.
Isn't that an amazing studio? That's America. That sums up America, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is the world's biggest sporting event. This and the Olympics, it doesn't get bigger than that. And for our national broadcaster not to actually be there, I think is a bit of a letdown. And those of us who have to pay the licence fee, I think we can say, well, perhaps, some of that licence fee should go on a proper World Cup studio. This is important for sports fans. For England fans like me, it's massive. ITV have risen to the occasion. Come on, BBC, get with the act.
Yeah, I mean, the BBC director of sport sort of seems to think, he says it's not a green box in Salford. Yeah, mate, I think you find it is. That's exactly what it is. As I say, this is priorities. Priorities. The BBC, as I just said, sends 500 staff to cover Glastonbury. In the end, that's just a periphery pop event that half the nation, or more than half the nation, couldn't give a damn about. But our England team are out there fighting for their nation, hoping to get the World Cup, and the state broadcaster that we pay for can't find any money to set up a studio there. Let me tell you, Robert, if you will agree, that's a wrong decision. That's a mistake.
Yes, and I wonder if it's partly that the BBC gets a bit complacent, because when the BBC and ITV show the same match, which I know in history they have done occasionally, if England get to a semi-final, the FA Cup final in the old days was on both channels, I think, and the BBC would always get more viewers, and the reason it got more viewers is because there are no ad breaks. And I think, is it that the BBC just assumes that we're going to watch their coverage anyway, so maybe they don't need to try so hard? But I say again, Kevin, this is a huge global tournament. It's all over the world. It's massive. We're all going to be watching it. We want the BBC to do better.
Yeah, well, the director of sport of the BBC is a guy called Alex K. Jelski. And he is that guy who believes that blokes in dresses should be allowed to compete against biological women. So I'm not sure he knows anything about sport at all, to be honest with you. This is that they've got this badly wrong, haven't they?
Well, they have, and I think they've got some credit. They finally gave Gary Lineker the boot. By the way, I thought Gary Lineker was a fantastic broadcaster, and a shame, really, he sort of jeopardised his own career. But they've done some things so well. I like a lot of what the BBC does with these big football tournaments. We all like to tune in and see our national broadcaster doing it really well. But so far, ITV have got the lead on the BBC. You just had to tune in last night to see that
beautiful
fantastic
studio. Absolutely
brilliant.
Beautiful. Now, you've written a bit, book, Robert, just before you go. Tears for England, Obsession, Hope and Heartbreak with the England football team. We're in for more of that, obviously. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, it's a memoir of my life of heartbreak supporting the England football team. So for me, it's 50 years of hurt because I've been following the England football team for 50 years. And it's really on the theme of obsession and heartbreak. It's a bit of a memoir, but it really goes through all those years of tears supporting England. The occasional triumph, Kevin, but a lot of tears in the middle of it.
I think that'll strike a chord with a lot of England fans. By the way, I should say that our sister station, the remarkable, the amazing talkSPORT, they got a big studio in Manhattan as well, so they're out there as well. So don't forget, folks, follow the World Cup on talkSPORT. It will be brilliant coverage, as talkSPORT always does. What do you reckon? This is my prediction for England quarter-finals if we're lucky.
Sadly, I think you might be right because the quarter-final is looking like it's going to be Brazil, and we never beat Brazil in a knockout. If we do, it would be magnificent, but that might indeed be our limit, sadly.
Yeah, well, we did beat, New Zealand 1-0, so that's all right. We've got a good chance, yeah. Best of luck to the lads, seriously, but I think it's going to be an uphill struggle. Robert, great to have you on the show, and good luck with the book. As I say, heartbreak with the England football team. We all know about that. Robert Taylor there, journalist and broadcaster. Next up, Kate Hoey, Baroness Kate Hoey, will join us about Ireland. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Breaking news, very good news for the people of Essex in Epping Forest. The Bell Hotel in Epping has now, which is full of asylum seekers. You remember that Ethiopian migrant who sexually assaulted 2 women there. All 100 or so of the asylum seekers billeted in that hotel have now been removed. So the Bell Hotel is now migrant-free. The people of Epping will be thrilled, absolutely thrilled. It's been used by the Home Office to house asylum seekers and was a location of those protests last year after those sex attacks. But Epping Forest District Council has now announced that all of those asylum seekers in that benighted hotel are out. Presumably, they're going to be moved to these military bases, disused military bases, air bases, wherever, you know, down in Crowborough or something like that. We'll try to find out more about that as the show progresses, so stick with us. Now, it's now been 5 hours. We haven't had a Defence Secretary at the most precarious time for our world and our country. But I'm very pleased to welcome to the show my next guest. She is Baroness Kate Hoey, independent peer and Brexiteer, former Labour MP, of course. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, obviously, I need to talk to you about Belfast. I need to talk to you about Northern Ireland. You had a very powerful piece, an excellent piece, if I may say so, in the Daily Mail today. It broke last night, well written, and making very, very good points. But first of all, as a former Labour MP, a former senior Labour politician, your thoughts about what I may say is the shock resignation of the Defence Secretary, John Healey, telling the Prime Minister in his resignation letter words to this effect: "You have forced me to pursue policies that endanger this country." That is shocking, isn't it?
Well, it does show that there are some politicians left with principles in the cabinet. Not many, probably. Sorry, I'll probably get into trouble for saying that. But, you know, John Healey is one of what many people would call the kind of grown-up people in the cabinet. He's been around for a long time. He's got a lot of experience. He cares about defence. He's very calm. And he has obviously taken this decision, you know, not just in the spur of the moment. It's obviously been something he has been worrying about and feeling that the government, the Prime Minister in particular, is letting him down and letting the country down. And he could no longer go on and try and sort of fluff that, you know, everything's normal. So it is a blow, I would have thought, to the Prime Minister, although the way he's behaving at the moment, he's obviously not listening to anybody, and he's going to carry on. It'll be interesting, I think, to see whether Vernon Coker, who I'm very fond of and is one of the best best ministers in the Lords, the Defence Minister, whether he might follow. And of course, there's also the deputy. So, but we haven't had an appointment yet, or at least if we have, I have missed it. Has it been? Has anyone been?
No, we haven't heard a peep from our Prime Minister.
He hasn't. He hasn't sent the standard letter yet.
No, we haven't seen his letter. We haven't heard a word from him. I would imagine he's in a certain amount of turmoil. My concern is that whoever does get the gig, whoever does replace John Healey, will in effect be a patsy. Because John Healey said, well, you don't give me enough money. You won't give me any money from your grotesque £350 billion a year welfare budget. You won't give me a penny from Ed Miliband's mad net zero nonsense. I can't fund the armed forces properly, therefore I have to resign on principle. The person that Starmer replaces John with will have to go along with the status quo. In other words, he'll have to be he or she will have to be a Defence Secretary that has agreed or does agree to not fund the armed forces. That is just catastrophic, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And one of the things that, particularly that job in cabinet, is that you do have to have the confidence and the support of the armed services, you know, and of the senior people in the armed services. And, you know, how are they going to react to someone coming in new, knowing why John Healey has resigned, and knowing that the Prime Minister hasn't listened to what he asked for and hasn't looked at priorities? You know, there are government is all about choices and priorities. And if there is a limited amount of money, which we all know because we're not getting growth in the country and there's not the economy's not looking great for the foreseeable future, then priorities have to be made. And I would have thought, and most people would think, that defending your country has to be a top priority.
Indeed. Let's move on to your home country, as it were. You're a Northern Ireland girl. I mean, you must, of course, it goes without saying that, like the rest of us, you must have been utterly shocked by what happened on the streets of Belfast, a British city, an alleged attempted beheading on Monday night by a migrant, a Sudanese migrant who we learned today was fast-tracked into the country. His asylum application just approved, no questions asked. Now, you've written a very powerful piece. You've said in your article what I've been trying to say inarticulately for 2 days, that you know, we look at those disgraceful scenes. We look at the riots, people being burnt out of their houses and so on and so forth. So, of course, we condemn that. Of course, that's outrageous, that's disgraceful. But your article hits the nail on the head and explains what I've been trying to say, that the political class, particularly Starmer and his gang, they stare us in the face and say, oh, well, if you're worried about the migrant, if you think this murder's got something to do, or this attempted murder's got something to do with the migrant crisis, you're a far-right racist. We're not going to in any way discuss the migrant crisis concerning what happened on Monday night. What happened on Monday night is a direct result of the migrant crisis, because that guy should never have been here. We learnt today, by the way, Kate, there are statistics suggesting that there are 107,000 crimes, offences, were committed by migrants last year. That's 1 every 3 minutes. We've imported a crime wave. We saw primitive scenes in Belfast on Monday night, and our political class are telling us, no, it's not the migrant crisis, and if you think that, you're a racist. They're gaslighting us, and as you say, to ignore the justified fears of this nation, the people of this country, over mass migration is very dangerous on the part of our government.
Yes, and we haven't seen any real change since this happened and since the protests. The Secretary of State, Hilary Benn, has continued to take a sort of attitude that it's all about right-wingers and far-right and racists. And yes, of course, there probably will be a few racists involved in some of that violent protests. But the reality is that, you know, the whole culture that changes when large numbers of migrants come into a community, particularly a rural community, or particularly places where there have not been many people from other countries, and people have not been asked, and then they start to complain. It's very interesting. The asylum hotel, the protests last night, the Chimney Corner that people were protesting at. There's been silent, peaceful protests going on there for some time, and it got a little bit of coverage at the very beginning. But then after that, no one listened, and no one even, and yet that's been happening, you know, for months. We also saw protests in Dublin last night, which haven't got any real coverage either. So what we saw Hilary Benn saying really was that he didn't even accept that there was, that there was some kind of alien culture involved in this.
Did you see that moment? It's quite funny when Richard Tice shouted, "Beheading!" while Hilary Benn said, "Oh, you talk of an alien culture. I don't know what you're talking about. It's ridiculous."
Absolutely ridiculous, because I mean, you know, we do know that a lot of the people who are coming in are coming from countries where, just as a very simple example, women are treated very, very differently and have not got the rights, and, you know, the child marriage and things like that. All of these things add up. But, you know, the basic issue is that the government has not listened to all of us who were saying that we have an open border. And of course, no one is wanting to put, you know, big barriers and stop every car going over from Northern Ireland into the Republic or vice versa. But the Irish government has actually been stopping buses and checking people coming down the other way, because when Rwanda's scheme was being discussed many migrants then decided they would be safer in the Republic of Ireland, part of the EU. And that's when they started to do some checks. And our government, and in questions I put and other people put, we just got to sort of, waffle back. Nothing was agreed. So the government has to realise words aren't good enough. Condemnations aren't good enough. They need to do something. They need action, and they need people to believe that they're listening, and they're not listening at the moment.
Well, the problem with our political class now, particularly Starmer and the gang, and indeed, I would suggest the joint First Ministers of Northern Ireland, Michelle O'Neill included, is that they're seizing upon these riots, this disgraceful behaviour, to say, oh, this is just racism and these people are just pure thugs, these are not protests. Now, there may be some justification of this, and of course, we deplore the method of these protests, but don't say they're not protests. They are protests. Michelle O'Neill, when asked by a journalist the other day, said, we have a problem with the common traveller area, don't we? This is a very easy access backdoor route into the UK. She turned around and said to him, that's fake news. Well, no, Michelle, you denying that is fake news. And to give you an idea of the kind of gaslighting that politicians inflict upon us as a nation when we go, we've got a migrant crisis, what are you going to do? Oh, you're racists. Well, I had a guest on yesterday, a Alliance Party politician. She actually represents North Belfast, where the alleged attempted beheading unfolded. Her name is Nuala McAllister. Now, I don't like to be one of those blokes who shouts over a woman, but I was a bit here. Have a listen to this. I think it sums up the problem. What is your feeling about what should be done about this? Because there is this kind of weird backdoor route into the UK via the border.
I have to interrupt you there, because I actually don't believe that the trigger for this has been the migrant crisis. I think the trigger for this is people using it.
You think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
I think the people are using this as an opportunity.
They didn't riot for no reason.
They are using this as an opportunity.
Well, hang on, Nuala, they did not riot for no reason.
There have been plenty of people who've come on.
So why did they riot? Why did they take to the streets last night?
There have been plenty of.
Why did they? Can you answer that question? Why did they take to the streets last night then?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
People have a perfectly right. They have a right, as they always should, to protest. Yes, but people do not have a right to illegally protest. But there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge, or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
There you go, Kate. I think that is the essence of the problem, a political class that won't confront the reality. Those protests were about the migrant crisis, and she will not accept that. And she says that, you heard what I was saying. Well, why did they go out last night? Well, just because they're pure thugs. That's just nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are some young people who are just caught up in whatever's happening, out on the streets and having a go at the police. But the problem with the Alliance Party, of course, and Sinn Féin, is that they believe in open borders. They actually think anyone practically should be allowed to come. And what is very sad is not only with the violence that many young people will now get, prison sentences and destroy their chances of getting jobs and so on, but also, the legal migrants, many of whom have been in Northern Ireland for a very long time, who are working very hard and who are not causing any problems whatsoever and have fully integrated. Many of them, a lot obviously haven't. They've been let down by the government because now we've seen, because there's been so many migrants brought in. Remember, Belfast is the sixth council in the whole of the United Kingdom. It's really the asylum capital of the United Kingdom. Now, that is outrageous in an area, where people really have seen changes in what's been happening in their local area, and the culture, the way people behave. But the very good legal immigrants who have come and have been many years, they are now suffering from this, because there's a kind of backlash against all migrants, and that is the government's fault. That can't be just put down to, racists and thugs. That is the government's fault for allowing this unchecked migration to continue, the previous government as well, and for not listening when people pointed out that many, many people were coming over the border. And it's going to get worse because the European Union has changed its policy now, and the Republic of Ireland are going to have to take out from tomorrow, I think, the new migration policy, a lot of more migrants, and many of those will come across the border unless we start treating that border what it is, which is with a foreign country. And therefore, we need to have those checks, not on everything, but on a number of buses, perhaps, so that people have no idea what's being checked and what isn't being checked, and that will help to
absolutely. Now, Nuala McAllister there, I think, was echoing the attitude of Keir Starmer and this government and so many Westminster politicians.
Yeah.
When I said...
And it's always... And the other thing is very important to say is they always treat everything as, oh, this is just an isolated incident. This is just
that's right, an isolated incident of extreme violence. But she went to the trouble to actually... I've got to interrupt you there. You dared to suggest that this trouble, these riots, are something to do with the migrant crisis. Oh, pardon me, how dare I? This is like Keir Starmer telling us we're not allowed to feel rage about what happened in the streets of Belfast on Monday night. They're trying to police our emotions, and they're trying to stare us in the face and, frankly, tell us lies. Nuala McAllister knows very well that those riots were about the migrant crisis.
And of course, it was Keir Starmer didn't mind us people expressing rage when there was someone thousands of miles away in America.
Exactly.
That whole Black Lives Matter thing, which was just
George
ridiculous.
Floyd,
So we're where we are tonight in Northern Ireland. I think it's not going to be a very nice evening. It's been raining most of the day, so hopefully, there will be a more peaceful evening. But if the government thinks that just by cracking down and bringing in more police and trying to stop people using social media and not those kinds of things, it's going to change any of this, it won't happen unless they accept there is a real problem. And it's getting worse.
And to the last question, Kate, so it's just like last week where Starmer and the gang are staring us in the face and saying, no, if you think it's two-tier policing, you're a racist, you're wrong. That's rubbish. It's written down. We know there's two-tier policing. So they gaslight us on this. They're gaslighting us on the migrant crisis in Belfast. None of them have even referred to the beheading in terms of the attempted beheading in terms of the migrant crisis. They stare us in the face and they say, no, you're wrong. As your excellent article in the Mail implies, this is a recipe for serious disaster. There will be social unrest because it isn't so much that the population of this country think we have a government, we have a political class that aren't listening to us. It's worse than that. We have a political class that are listening to us, they hear us, and then they turn around and say, no, you're wrong, and if you think that, you're a racist. It's outrageous, and there'll be a lot more social unrest unless the government and our authorities stop ignoring that fact.
Yes, and as I said, not just making sort of platitudes and saying things, but actually showing that they understand how communities feel about the way how their areas have been changed without them ever having a say in wanting that to happen.
Kate, it's great to have you on the show. Brilliant article in the Mail. Thanks very much for your time. That's the excellent Baroness Kate Hoey, former Labour MP, Brexiteer, of course, and a lady from Northern Ireland, so she knows what she's talking about. Next up, we're going to talk to former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley about this astonishing statistic released today that 107,000 migrants were arrested for offences last year. 107,000, that's one every 3 minutes. We've imported a crime wave. What on earth are we doing to this country? 03444 99 1000. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, these are statistics that the Home Office challenges, but they've been released by the Centre for Migration Control. And these statistics suggest that there were 170,000 offences for which migrants were arrested last year. That is 1 every 3 minutes. Now, as I say, I've got to stress, the Home Office says it doesn't recognise these figures. We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws. We are reforming human rights laws and replacing the broken appeals system so we can scale up deportations. Better late than never, eh? All foreign national offenders who receive prison sentences in the UK are referred for deportation at the earliest opportunity. That's what the Home Office says. The Centre for Migration Control says 107,000 arrests of migrants last year for offences. Let's talk to Met Police Detective Peter Blexley. Peter, as I say, the Home Office are disputing these figures, but you can't help feeling there's a feeling of truth about them, isn't there? And if true, 107,000 an arrest every 7 minutes, that's just shocking, isn't it?
Hello, Starmer must go, Sorry, I was just getting into the World Cup swing of things there, and knowing that we're a pair of aging football supporters, I thought I'd change that chant a little bit. But anyway, yes, 173,000 arrests, okay? So that doesn't mean that's the number of offences committed, because, of course, one person can be arrested for a number of different offences. And let's also factor in here that a number of police services did not submit their statistics. The City of London have got woeful record keeping. Surrey Police didn't give their figures, and so did a couple of others. So it's even more, in fact, of foreigners in this country committing crime, getting arrested. 20 an hour, 473 every single day of the week. What a ridiculous situation this government and the previous government have got us into.
Yeah, the Centre for Migration Control statistics, you're quite right. I keep saying 107. It's worse than that. It's 170,000. Just to give the precise figures that they're putting out, that's 172,889 foreign national arrests recorded by 43 territorial police forces in England, Wales and the British Transport Police last year. This is the equivalent of 473 arrests every day, and that's 19.7 arrests every hour, or, if you like, an arrest every 83 seconds. I've got to say, Peter, those do not sound to me like statistics that the Centre for Migration Control plucked out of thin air. And given what we saw in Belfast on Monday night, given the amount of sex crimes we've seen committed by asylum seekers, they ring true to me. Either way, we have imported a crime crisis, haven't we?
We certainly have. And bearing in mind that we've now been on air talking to each other for as long as it takes for one more arrest of a foreigner to take place, if you and I have a chat for another 3 minutes, there will be yet another one arrested. That's the frequency, that's the scale of the problem, that's the disaster facing us. And let's just stop for a moment and think about the victims, because these people are being arrested for a whole manner of crimes. Murder, rest in peace, Rhiannon White. Sexual offences, over 11,000 of them. Rapes. Look at Bournemouth, what was once a beautiful seaside town, where now women are frightened to go out of their front doors, and it goes on and on and on. I was in Liverpool this week hearing dreadful tales of crimes being committed by people that are housed in HMOs up there, particularly in the Kensington area of Liverpool, and it goes on. It's replicated in so many places up and down the country, and you can blame whoever you like. Sunak, Johnson, Starmer, they're all to blame. They all share this blame. It's an absolute disgrace. And until we see boatloads, plane loads, truckloads of people being deported from this country, there is going to be an awful lot of anger, as we've seen, boiling over in Belfast. And of course, I utterly condemn that riotous behaviour. But if these politicians, as you pointed out in your interview with Kate Hoey, keep gaslighting us, keep lying to us, then the anger is going to increase. And I have a heartfelt fear, and I hope I'm wrong, but I suspect that this summer Britain is going to burn.
I think your fears are well-founded, Peter. Douglas Murray's got a piece in the new edition of The Spectator in which he talks about this. He says that basically we have a political class, you know, with 14 years of Tories, now Labour, whose the only way they can deal with the crisis they've caused the migrant crisis. We now, a nation in peril, cry out in rage saying, what are you going to do about this? And the only way they can deal with it is to gaslight us, pretend there isn't a crisis, and if we carry on screaming with rage, they tell us we're far-right racists. They caused this, they don't know how to solve it, so they attack us. It's a seriously pathetic situation.
I would say they don't have the courage to solve it. They will not stand up to those mad people that want to vote for them, to their lunatic, lefty, progressive, woke, liberal backbenchers who would bristle at the very thought of people being put in handcuffs and deported. And that is what needs to happen. We could free up 12% of the prison population so we can lock up a few more of our native Romans. People like Hugh Edwards might actually get a bit of jail time, which would be a refreshing and very necessary and appropriate thing. And we could so much in welfare benefit would not be paid out if we could get rid of some of these people. And on the day when we have the Defence Secretary resign because there's not enough money being given to what? Oh, yes, defending the country. How outrageous is that?
Yeah.
If we got rid of these people, we might have a few more quid to buy some bombs, some rockets, some planes and some missiles, so we'd stand half a chance if anybody wants to pick on us.
Yeah, maybe, you know, just a few quid to, I don't know, defend the nation might be nice, wouldn't it? But this crime wave, this migrant crime wave, if true, I mean, that's extraordinary and shocking. Peter, it's always great to have you on the show. Thanks so much once again. That's the great Peter Branksy, former Met Police detective. As I say, I'm going to run through these statistics again. They seem extremely precise to me. This is from the Migration Control, the Centre for Migration Control. They say that data available for last year reveals that there were 172,889 foreign national arrests in a year, recorded by 43 territorial police forces in England and Wales and by the British Transport Police. That is the equivalent of 473 arrests every day, or 19.7 arrests every hour, or an arrest once every 183 seconds. That's just over 3 minutes. The Express has reported this as well. But once again, I must stress that the Home Office, you know, I mean, we kind of get used to this sort of response, don't we? But here they are. That's what they said. We do not recognise these figures. And then they go on to give us a load of old claptrap about how they're really cracking down. So this is what they say. We do not recognise these figures. We will not allow foreign criminals and illegal migrants to exploit our laws. Yeah, you do. We are reforming human rights laws. No, you're not. And replacing the broken appeals system so we can scale up deportations. Yeah, right. All foreign nationals, offenders who receive a prison sentence in the UK are referred for deportation at the earliest opportunity, unless, as I understand it, those prison sentences are less than 12 months. Good, isn't it? There you go. Right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Crowborough, the pretty East Sussex town, which has now had, or is in the process of having, 540 male migrant asylum seekers foisted upon them in their local army training camp. And I'm going to tell you a story about the Be Kinders and just how kind they are. These are the pro-migrant protesters, or demonstrators if you like, who descend on that town to counteract the regular marches that the Crowborough Shield organisation have to protest about their army camp being turned into accommodation centre for migrants. We'll talk about that next. You're going to find this story pretty shocking. Got a lot of shocking stories for you today, but this one, this exposes the Be Kind Brigade for what they really are. Nasty pieces of work. That next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, let's go straight over to the chairwoman of the Crowborough Shield organisation in Crowborough in East Sussex. She's the woman who organises the residents there who are worried about their local army camp being turned into a accommodation centre for migrants. So a warm welcome to Kim Bailey. Hi, Kim.
Hi. Hi, Kevin.
Now,
How you doing?
this story is this. That I believe it was last Sunday, could have been the Sunday before, because you have these regular marches. Now, it would have been last Sunday. So your Crowborough Shield people marched once again to protest about the camp. Now, every time you do this, you have the Be Kind mob, the pro-migrant demonstrators, stand there with their, you know, say it loud, say it clear, migrants are welcome here, and all this kind of claptrap. Now, in a moment of unity last Sunday, your side of the story, that somebody stood up and said, let's join together, us who are protesting about the migrant crisis and you who support the migrants, let's join together to pay tribute to that poor kid, Henry Novak, who died in Southampton in the appalling circumstances that we know all about now. The victim, if you like, of police anti-white racism. Now, the manner of your tribute was to all applaud, to clap. Probably quite moving, I would have thought. The pro-migrant people, say it loud, say it clear, migrants are welcome here. What they did while you all paid tribute to Henry Novak is they turned their backs. And these are the people who say, we are kind, be kind, be kind. That's not kind. That's not being kind. That is being really, really nasty. They're not kind, these people. They're the opposite of that, aren't they?
absolutely. I mean, I wasn't actually at that protest. I couldn't attend last week, but I did hear all about it, and I was quite shocked, to be honest. And you know, they're holding up these placards about kind of we've got more in common and hope and not hate and all these things and unity. And I think this just goes to show there's a saying that I really like that was said to me at the beginning of all of this, that is, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And I think this is just exactly that. I mean, the placards they were holding up was truth and hope. Well, actually, not one of those is actually searching for the truth. It seems more that they are just falling for anything that is being said to them. I mean, if you look at what Zelensky has said, is that there's no evidence that asylum seekers commit more crimes than other people. Well, actually, the truth is that he just is not privileged to that evidence. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's there. He just isn't privileged to it. So then you've got all of these kind of followers that are just falling for everything that is being said. You know, search for the truth. The truth is out there, and that's exactly what we're doing here in Crowborough. We have, you know, we're going to take this Home Secretary to the court for a judicial review, find the truth. But actually, it just seems that this group of people are just out for attention and to just be the absolute opposite. They just want to be the opposite and create a scene for no reason. It just doesn't make sense, especially in this circumstance with poor Henry Novak. They should have united. They should have stood there and said, absolutely, we are against this, but they didn't. Yeah, and what they were trying to achieve, I will never know. I will never understand.
I just don't think they're nice people. I think they're the opposite of be kind. They're be unkind. You know, if you can't join together to pay tribute to that poor kid, that poor teenager who was killed in such appalling circumstances, you know, in handcuffs under arrest while choking on his own blood, saying, I can't breathe, while the police prioritised accusations of racism and believed his killer as opposed to him. If you can't stand up and say this was wrong and this was an appalling tragedy and pay tribute to that poor kid, then, you know, take a look at yourself. Because that's just evil, I think.
It is, and you know, these placards that they're holding up saying truth and hope, they need to get to grips with what the truth is. There is a risk, and Crowborough has been put at risk. No risk assessments have been carried out. There have been no impact assessments across any of this. And actually, the one thing that we have been asking for is the truth. And that is not forthcoming. So, you know, what they're saying is true. Find the truth. We want hope. We're hoping for the truth. And actually, if the truth can come out like we're hoping it will at this judicial review, then things like this won't keep on happening. They can't just keep housing undocumented people in massive groups in small towns. The risk is just too great in every sense. Community cohesion. We know that some of those people in the camp, you know, they've been sold a dream. Come here, you're going to have a wonderful life, and everyone's granted asylum. But within that mix, there are criminals, and they are, you know, roaming the streets, and they are causing problems. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of the background of the killer of poor Henry Novak, but there are risks, and these risks are just being ignored. And like you keep saying, Kevin, this government just keep gaslighting everyone. We know the risks. Yeah. Why are the Home Office gaslighting us and saying there's no risk, everything is hunky-dory? And then, like I say, you go back to that saying, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And that's exactly what this group of people are doing. And it's just senseless. And like you say, it's unkind. It's disgusting, to be quite honest.
Talking of gaslighting, is the government, the Home Office, still gaslighting you good people of Crowborough in terms of exactly how many migrants are in that camp? Because, you know, the capacity is 540 or so, but every time I ask you, you're not sure how many have been put in there so far because the Home Office won't tell you. Is it still the situation?
No. So actually this week I attended an NGO meeting with the Home Office, which is a non-governmental organisation. And there we did actually get some figures. So there's 473 currently on site, with around 100 that have actually been moved on. What you also heard from the Home Affairs Committee this week is the cost of what it's costing to house these asylum seekers at Crowborough Army Training Camp. Now, so far, if you count 573 people with the amount of money that's been spent up there, it's working out at about, just so far, between £26,000 and £36,000 per asylum seeker at that camp. So they've spent, you know, 15 million roughly in the first year. The figures are extortionate. So myself and lots of the residents here in Crowborough have also now referred this to the National Audit Committee, the National Audit Office, because they're the ones that also helped shut down North Eye and Bexhill. Again, extortionate amounts of money was spent in Bexhill, and it's very similar here. This is not good use of taxpayer, and it just goes taxpayers' money. And it also goes to show the lies that Shabana Mahmood keeps coming out with. We're doing this, we're moving them from hotels into barracks because it's a cost-effective way, and we're going to drive down that extortionate cost of asylum hotels. Well, this is like how many times more expensive than a hotel? It's just madness, and it's like everyone keeps saying, it's just moving deck chairs around on the Titanic.
Yeah.
She's trying to show she's doing something when really she's doing nothing apart from driving up everybody's tax bill and spending money like it's meaningless.
So what was that number you said, Kim, in terms of the £36,000? Is that per migrant per year?
Well, if you go back and calculate what they've said in the Home Affairs Committee, which was £3 million to ready the site, £4 million to Clear Springs. Katie Bourne has said it's £5.6 million per year to police this. You've then got the MOD's cost of handing the site over to the Home Office. That was £2.641 million. And then what you've got is between £150 and £170 per migrant per night. So if you was to, and they're saying that the migrants will be there for no longer than 90 odd days, because the idea is that they don't stay here long, they're moved on to dispersal accommodation. So you do the maths on that, it's an extortionate amount of money, and just so far you're looking at around between 26 and 36,000 pounds per person so far.
That's ridiculous. So it's not at all cheap when they say, oh, this is to save money over hotels. It's very expensive.
Massively more.
It's massively more expensive than hotels. Unbelievable. Listen, Kim, the asylum minister has just admitted that failings over how the Crowborough military training camp was set up to temporarily house 540 male asylum seekers. He's admitting to failings. He was questioned by MPs on Tuesday. That's the Minister for Border Security and Asylum, Alex Norris. He said he deeply regretted how things had played out. This would be, among other failings, a reference to the fact that he promised you that you'd only have these migrants or these asylum seekers in that camp for a year, and now we learn that he wants to leave them there until 2030. And also that, until your recent meeting, they've just kept secrets from you all along, haven't they?
I mean, it's all been underhanded. That man, Alex Norris, is just one walking failure. There is nothing pleasant. He's a deeply unpleasant man. And, what he said in the Home Affairs Committee is that it was a failure. He has not come to Crowborough. He's not spoke to this community and said, I've got it wrong. How can I make it right? There's been nothing. That's the first time we've heard him admit that he is himself a giant failure. The whole thing is just an absolute disaster. And if you listen to that Home Affairs Committee, when he was questioned on the 12 months, he wouldn't even say the word 12 months. He evaded that question and went round and round the mill saying the basis of which we're working to is that basis. He wouldn't even say 12 months. The MPs who questioned him had said, we've seen that it's been taken out of your fact sheet. Why is that? Again, he moved to gaslighting the community. Well, every word that is taken or changed is going to be scrutinised, and, that's okay. So, again, it was gaslighting the community. They took it out of the leaflet, out of that fact sheet for 12 months, because we all know that it is never going to be for 12 months. There is no way that this government can justify spending this sort of money for 12 months. It's just never going to happen.
Exactly.
So,
I want to make a last point, Kim, and that is this. You, people from the Crowborough Shield, you've now staged 31 marches. Quite a few people turn up for these, in the thousands quite often, and not a single arrest. No offences whatsoever. 31 marches, totally peaceful. I look at Belfast and I think you know how to protest. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And come on again very soon, Kim. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Keep up the good work. That is the brilliant chairwoman of the Crowborough Shield organisation, Kim Bailey. Let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about those pro-migrant be-kinders who refused to participate in a tribute to Henry Novak. They turned their backs in contempt. Be kind, that's being unkind, isn't it? as being plain nasty. 03444991000. Sport next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, he usually sits about 1 yard from me, a couple of metres, if you like. He is from Sun Sport, Deputy Head of Sport there, Dean Scoggins, but the lucky SOB is in New York covering the World Cup. Hi, Dean.
Hello, Kev. How are you?
How's it going over there? Having a good time, are you?
Yeah. Look, just in case my wife's watching, Kev, we've been working extremely hard.
I bet you have, seriously.
Yeah, we've barely seen anything of New York City or Times Square or the tacos or Liberty Island or anything so far.
Well, I'm sure you will in the end. So have a good time over there, and good for you for being there. I went down to Sun Sport earlier today, and there's like tumbleweed going through the department because you're all in bloody America, aren't you?
We're set up here. It's great. We've got our studios over here. We've got I'm sat in our kind of Sun Sport war room now, so we can be running 24-hour coverage, really, obviously with the time difference. So everyone's getting very excited over here now because New York Knicks have kind of taken over the city because they're in the NBA finals. But it's suddenly dawned on America that the World Cup starts today.
Yeah, indeed. They're playing the San Antonio Spurs. Aren't San Antonio Spurs sort of ahead of them at the moment or something?
Well, no, New York won last night from
did
29 points. 29 points down they were, and they came back to win. So it was another, dare I say, Spursy performance.
Spurs finally wins, Now, well, first of all, because, of course, it starts tonight in Mexico City, South Africa, versus Mexico. That's 8 p.m. tonight. And then tomorrow, again in Mexico, South Korea versus the Czech Republic. That's at 3 a.m. if you're over here. So exciting. We're underway. But let's talk about England versus Costa Rica. That's next Thursday, June the 17th, isn't it? Oh, was that? Oh, no, sorry, never mind Costa Rica. We've got Croatia next Thursday when our first World Cup game happens. Did you, watching the training game against Costa Rica, did it fill you with confidence?
Yeah, it did actually, Kev. I'm quite enthused. As you say, Croatia, I'm never quite sure of the days at the moment, but Croatia on the 17th.
It's next Thursday, I believe, something like that,
yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll get it right in the end.
Well, I'll take your word for it because we're on a different time zone here. I was very enthused by the Costa Rica game. I was a little worried after the New Zealand friendly, but that was played in extreme heat on a terrible pitch.
Mm-hmm.
But this was much, much better. Jude Bellingham from the start. And I've just actually filmed my tactics show, Tactics Exposed, which will go out on YouTube.
Yeah, tell me all about the shows in just a second. I want to get that all in, Dean, but carry on about England.
I thought they were really quite good yesterday. We got Bellingham back in the side. They play with much more width, England. There was a bit more identity about the team. I don't think that, it's a big tournament, obviously increased teams. There's going to be a lot of lesser nations, but England have actually got quite a tough group, and Croatia and Ghana aren't going to be a walkover. But I actually think that suits England a little bit because they can play a bit more like Premier League football against higher level opposition rather than having to break down teams who are just going to sit behind the ball the entire game.
Yeah.
But against Costa Rica yesterday, who did defend very deep, England found a way. They created lots of chances. Declan Rice got into some really good attacking positions as well. Anthony Gordon looked good from the left. And I think as friendlies go, it was absolutely the perfect way for Tuchel to start the World Cup off. And the other thing was the weather meant that there was an hour delay.
Yeah, because
it wasn't very good for us and newspaper deadlines and trying to do news. But it was good for England because that means that they got to practice that as well. If that happens in the tournament and there are storm delays or time delays, teams are going to have to adapt to that. And that gave England a really good dummy run, if you like, of what might happen in the tournament.
Before we get to the Sun's coverage, one last question. Anthony Gordon took the penalty last night. Is that a new policy? Usually it's Harry Kane, right?
Yeah, Kane had gone off, but there were a couple of other penalty takers on the field. But you're right, I was interested by that as well. So, and the way he took the penalty, I think if we go to one of those dreaded shootouts, I think he might be one of the names on the list, the way he took that penalty. But it's good to see somebody else hit the back of the net and not just Harry Kane.
Absolutely. Now, tell us all about the Sun shows, your shows, other shows, and how people get to see them.
Yeah, so my show, Tactics Exposed, we'll be doing a Tactics Exposed team talk ahead of every game. We've just filmed the Croatia preview show here, so that'll be out later tonight on YouTube. And then Tactics Exposed comes after every England game as well. And then we've launched a new show called Proper Football Daily, not soccer. We're not calling it soccer. We've got special guest Carl Walker on that in every England episode. And we're going to have other celebrities on there as well. I've got a rather large celebrity who I won't reveal just yet coming on tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But that's a daily digest show. So if you've missed any of the action overnight because of the time difference, you can come on first thing in the morning and catch up with everything with us that's happened overnight.
So what do we do? Go to the Sun website, yeah?
Yeah, on the Sun app, the Sun website, on the Sun Sport YouTube channels, and you can catch me all over social media as well, Kev, at Dino Decides.
OK, amazing. Who are the teams to watch? I think our problem is if we get to the quarterfinals, we're in that side of the draw, we'll probably be playing Brazil. Don't fancy that much.
No, but I would urge everyone who, if you're going to stay up tonight, to watch Mexico, because we could be on a collision course with Mexico in the last 16. So if it goes to plan, if you like, and we win the group, we could play Mexico City, the Azteca Stadium at altitude in the last 16, which will be a very, very tough game. They've got a young lad called Gilberto Mora who plays for Mexico, and he's just turned 17. He was born in 2008, Kev. I feel great, that, doesn't it?
I don't like that at all. But I was living in LA for the last World Cup, and I went to see a couple of Mexico games. And if we get to play Mexico, any team that plays Mexico have got 12 players. The 12th is the crowd. They are massive. They're hysterical. They're quite a daunting team to play against in that respect, if only because of the absolute sort of cacophonous noise of the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get the opening ceremony there tonight from the Mexico standpoint, because there'll be opening ceremonies for Mexico, USA and Canada. But yeah, it'll be a good preview for England if we do get to play them in the last 16. And I keep having nightmares about penalty shootout at altitude against Mexico in the Azteca, but let's hope we deal with them before then.
Just a last word about that. I mean, there's going to be various different meteorological conditions that the England squad are going to have to deal with. A lot of tropical heat, altitude as well. Is that likely to present a problem? I mean, you know, it is going to be tough going for people used to playing in our climate. You should see the weather here today. It isn't good.
No, well, it's very, very hot here, and you know, you can't can't see much sunshine in New York because of the high rises. You tend to walk around in the shade wherever you are, but it is about 35 degrees in the city. And, you know, there's been some England players I've been really impressed with. I've really got to single out Marcus Rashford, who came out after the end of the La Liga season. Instead of having a break, he went straight to Miami to do some warm weather training to make sure his body was acclimatised, ready for the conditions, which is absolutely fantastic. That's exactly what we want from the England players. Declan Rice a little less so, who's been told off by his mum for sunburn.
Being sunburnt, yeah, I saw that.
Cream on, so some great pictures of Declan Rice circulating. But no, it's definitely something they're going to have to try and deal with as they go on.
They'll be all right. They'll be all right, Dean. Don't you worry about it. Have a great time. We'll talk to you again soon. Dean Scoggins in New York. Harry Cole next after the news. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I should say, earlier I mentioned that all the asylum seekers in the notorious Bell Hotel in Epping in Essex have been shipped out, been removed, as if this was some great sort of policy change and the people of Epping can be relieved, the migrants have all been moved to some accommodation camp or something. Well, it turns out that they've been evacuated due to fire hazards, fire concerns, so I shouldn't get too excited, but I suppose it's a temporary reprieve for the people of Epping, so every little helps. Now, in a little while, I'm going to spend, the next half an hour or so, effectively, metaphorically, in the United States of America. I'll be talking to our royal guru, Kinsey Schofield. Actually, I'm saying she's actually here in London, but usually she's on the West Coast. But so Kinsey in 25 minutes or so. But first, obviously with all the latest news from Planet Meghan, Planet Royal. But first, let's go over to the United States to talk to the Sun's editor-at-large there, Harry Cole. Welcome, Harry.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right. Thanks very much for coming on. Now,
always a pleasure.
It's good to have you on the show. Seriously, and of course, I said get coal the moment I heard the shock news that John Healey, the Defence Secretary, has resigned on principle. And to paraphrase his resignation letter to Keir Starmer, he said, effectively, you're forcing me to follow policies that endanger the safety of this nation. I haven't got enough money to fund the armed forces. You won't take any money off our grotesquely bloated welfare budget, 350 billion quid a year, and you won't give me any money from Ed Miliband's wild spending net zero budget either. I'm off. Your thoughts about this? Just how much of a killer blow is that to Starmer?
I mean, the zombie PM. I mean, how many lives this guy got left? I mean, this is, and I don't mean to sound dramatic, but it is incredibly rare for a defence secretary to resign with quite that blast. If you think about what is the one thing that governments are there for? To protect our citizens. You think on borders, it's clear that the Keir Starmer's government is not doing that, and on defence of the realm. I mean, if there's any point in government, it is for the defence of the people. And he says it. He just says it. He goes right out and says it in that letter. You are forcing me to make choices that are making the people of our country less safe. And that is the most damning indictment yet. After damning indictment after damning indictment, this is, they're failing at the very one responsibility left for government. And all this chat about how, Keir Starmer's one redeeming feature is that he's brilliant on foreign policy, and he's been leading the charge of, across Europe and rebalancing the responsibilities of NATO and Europe in light of America kind of stepping back in terms of NATO funding. All nonsense. I'm not going to swear because I always swear when I come on. I always get told off. People forget about Ofcom. We don't have Ofcom in America. Yeah. But
right, I'm moving back then. Listen, Harry, while you're on that tack, this is the Prime Minister just a few days ago staring the nation in the face and telling us about his sacred duty. Listen to this.
It reminds me of something that I hold fast to every single day as Prime Minister. And that is that my first duty, the duty above everything else, is to keep our country safe and to keep our people safe. That is the top, most important duty of any Prime Minister. And it's the one, as I say, that I hold very, very close every single day.
The words, or the thought, hollow words occur to me. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the word windbag comes to mind for me. We now, what we long suspected is that, this is a government that is now explicitly putting climate change goals, benefit bills before protecting its citizens. And that is, there we go. There we have it. It's in black and white. They can't deny it anymore. And for the Treasury to come out today and go, well, John Healey's choosing to cut schools and hospitals over, it's just nonsense. The idea that the only thing that the government spends money on is defence, schools and hospitals. Now, I mean, I could live with that. I could live in a world where that is the only thing the government spend money on. But it's,
yeah, well, there's a reality here. There's a reality here, Harry, that, nobody wants funds to be cut from schools and hospitals. But when it comes right down to it, particularly with the perilous state of the world right now, I'm afraid schools and hospitals, I know this is going to come to a tremendous shock to our socialist friends in the Labour government, but they should not be prioritised over defence. Defence is more important than schools and hospitals right now. That's a fact.
I mean, there's no schools and hospitals aren't going to do much good when some crackpot in the Kremlin 10 years down the line fires a nuclear weapon at Britain, as they've been spending the last 5 years threatening to do. It's like, it's a sort of parallel world that Keir Starmer's sort of cosplaying Prime Minister. He's cosplaying this idea that he's this sort of influential player on the world stage, and when it comes to it, he hasn't got, he's writing checks that Britain just simply can't cash at the moment. I've put it to the White House. I've asked for a response to all this, and we're all on bated breath for what Donald Trump's going to say any moment, I suspect, on Truth Social or ask for a statement from the White House, because he has put, Donald Trump has made it very, very clear. NATO had to increase their defense spending targets for all countries. Look at what Germany's doing. This is a country that's been pacifist for obvious reasons. I'm never that comfortable watching the Germans rearm, and nor are the French, I suspect, but they've come on leaps and bounds in the last 18 months in terms of actually realistically looking at what they can do to rearm. And it's not about just, simply buying kit off the shelf. It's about making supply chains. I understand that Keir Starmer was due in Swindon tomorrow at this new drone factory to give a big speech. Doesn't sound like that's happening. And it sounds to me, from the fact is that we've now, 6 hours on from this resignation? We don't have a defence secretary.
We've been saying that. It's 6 hours and 9 minutes.
Who would take the job? Only an absolute patsy, and we'll probably find out who that patsy careerist, psychopath wannabe who thinks being as defence secretary for a month and a half before Keir Starmer's finally turfed out of office is worth it, when what you're saying is you're willing to sign up to make this country less safe. It's crackers.
How much longer can Starmer go on like this? This must be the beginning of the end, surely.
Just stick a fork in him. He's done. It's embarrassing now. The fact is, the guy clearly has so few friends in politics that no one's going round there with the whiskey and the revolver and saying, mate, come on, if you want to get out of this with any credibility left, just go, man. Go now. How he can survive, the idea that now he could even fight a leadership election as he's been bleating all weekend that he was going to. It's nonsense. He's done. He's toast. Just go.
Let's move on if we can, because I know it's a massive story over there, as it obviously is here. But let's talk about this, I now have to say, for legal reasons, this alleged attempted beheading on the streets of Belfast, a British city, by a Sudanese migrant, allegedly, on Monday night. He's been charged with this offence. What's happening now, you will have seen this from across the pond, as it were. Ever since then, Starmer and the Cabinet, the government, the authorities have been gaslighting us. We're saying, well, nobody approves, nobody condones these riots and the damage and the burning of people's houses and the disturbances in Belfast. Nobody condones that. Nobody condones that method of protesting. But, of course, what Starmer and the gang have said, this is not protest. This is not a protest. It's pure thuggery. It's racism. No, we don't like the method, but this is a protest, and the protest is about the migrant crisis. Because if we didn't have a migrant crisis, if we didn't have a ridiculous open borders policy, which basically, in the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, the EU and the UK, is completely open, if we didn't have that, a shocking incident on Monday night wouldn't have happened, because he wouldn't have been there.
Oh, careful, though, because Michelle O'Neill, the absolute divot in charge of Northern Ireland at the moment, the Sinn Féin lefty, kumbaya, let's all come together, leader of Northern Ireland, who says that's fake news. You can't even ask questions about the fact there is an open, porous.
It's called the Common Travel Area.
Exactly.
She can't say that. It's a fact. It's an official fact.
No, it's fake. It's fake news. And careful, you're being divisive. Remember, divisive is the worst thing you can possibly be, apart from racist. And then people are throwing these allegations of fake news and racism and divisive, and we must all come and sing "Don't Look Back in Anger." No, let's look forward with anger. And if you don't get why people are angry, you are part of the problem. And Fox News, wall to wall. Other channels in the US, wall to wall. Elon Musk, I don't like his a lot of what he says, but the fact is, people are looking at Britain from the outside, and they think we're mental.
And J.D. Vance last week got stuck in. I'm all for what he said, mostly. I don't think the Sikh community are symptomatic of our migrant crisis at all, but he was a bit wrong on that, in my view, but when he said that Henry Novak, the manner of Henry Novak's death, a victim, no doubt about it, of anti-white racism in the police, was symptomatic of the decline of British civilization. I think he was spot on. I think he was right. And just as Ed Davey and or David Lammy have been, no, you're wrong, J.D. Vance, you're wrong. Guess what? There's an attempted beheading on the streets of a British city that tends to endorse and to confirm what J.D. Vance suggested. I bet over in America they're looking at this attempted beheading and going, see, Britain's plummeting downhill fast.
Well, it's not that. I mean, this is what happens if where it's taken on two things. One, it's like, what the hell has happened to our old friend? There is a sympathetic and friendly look. I mean, so many people have ties to Ireland and Britain in this country. They look at the old country in horror, but then they also look forward to, well, if President Trump hadn't taken extensive action to close the southern border, if in his first act as president when he came back in 2024 was to shut out 12 countries, the most violent and dangerous countries in the world, hey, you know what? Let's not import people from there. Let's not open with open arms military-age fighting men from countries that have been wrought with civil war and conflict for decades and where violence is a way of life. And, funny enough, you don't get people getting their heads cut off in the streets of America by Sudanese migrants. I should say an attempted one, but it doesn't happen here.
Yeah, Hilary Benn, the Northern Ireland Secretary, was quizzed in the Commons a couple of days ago. He was asked, what are you going to do about importing alien cultures into Britain, as in perhaps Sudanese migrants? And he said, alien cultures? I don't know what you mean by that. And, and Richard Tice shouted across the Commons, beheading! So they're gaslighting us with...
well, exactly, and it's worse than that. Our mutual friend Nick Ferrari was talking to Hilary Benn this morning. I was just watching a video of it, and it's 3 or 4 times he asked Hilary Benn, "What can you not see that this is alien?" And still he won't do it. The chasm between the political class and the metropolitan liberal elite, summed up perfectly by someone like Hilary Benn, Mr. Remainer in Chief, Mr. Second Referendum, you name it, you know exactly where he's going to be on every great issue of our day, and it's always on the wrong side of history. You see these people, and they are so out of touch. And actually, for the first time, we're seeing now, just how out of touch politicians are with the public. And if they genuinely can't understand it, if they would rather blame Nigel Farage and his hurty words, or blame somehow Elon Musk, like Elon Musk did not attempt to behead someone on the streets of Northern Ireland. Yeah. He didn't censor those videos either, and nor should he, because I think the public need to see what is happening to our country. And you would think it was Elon Musk holding the knife. You would think that Nigel Farage, from the reaction of the political class and their allies and the BBC and the left-wing press, you would think that they are the ones that are doing this to Britain. They are not. Don't shoot the messengers. Don't shoot those holding up the mirror. Yes, we might not like Elon Musk politics, but the idea that we should be censoring X because of what is happening on the streets.
I was going to ask you about that. That's chilling, isn't it? What are we, Harry? Iran? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to close down social media? That's unbelievable.
The physical embodiment of it is policy by shutting your eyes and putting your fingers in your ears and screaming la 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 la. Well, I'm afraid the time for la 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 is over.
Indeed, and what are we going to do about this government that just keeps gaslighting us? They just stare us in the face and say, "Oh, you think that the trouble in Belfast is to do with the migrant crisis? Well, that makes you a racist, a far-right racist. You think, you say there's 2-tier policing, that makes you far-right. These are truths." And we're being told by Starmer and the gang they don't exist or you're a racist. This is a recipe for much, much more social unrest, because this is worse than a government not listening to us. They're listening to us, they're hearing us, and then they're staring us in the face and saying, "You're wrong, we don't recognise what you're saying." That's not good enough.
Yeah, I think it's going to get worse as well. What do we know about... What does Andy Burnham think about all this? Obviously, he's beavering away up in Makerfield, desperately, trying to avoid talking about anything that's going to vaguely, increase the chances of reform blocking his plans for power. But what does he really think about this? He's going to be pandering to the Labour Party membership. 250,000 people in the next, unless they coronate, in which they might, but then he'll be pandering to Labour MPs, the very same Labour MPs who don't want to talk about this stuff. They'd rather sit in their comfort blankets and their ivory towers, blaming X and blaming Nigel Farage for problems right beneath their eyes. And Andy Burnham is not the solution to this. I think it's going to get worse.
Yeah, if Andy Burnham's the answer, what the hell's the question? Can you think of anyone who might be worse than Keir Starmer? Andy Burnham. Now, I better get you on an American issue. Trump saying that America will hit Iran very hard tonight, and he threatens to take Karg Island. What's the feeling in the States about this ongoing saga?
Well, Donald Trump said this was going to be a 4 to 6 week foray conflict into Iran. It's now been 4 to 6. We're heading for 6 months. So it's tricky. It's clear that the Iranians are stringing him along. It's not entirely clear who they're negotiating with. At one point this week, they lost the gay Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, who we don't even know if he's in a coma. We don't even know where he is. At some point, the gay Ayatollah was I was trying to get that into a headline.
The gay Ayatollah. Yeah, this is Trump's idea that he's gay.
Well, the CIA have briefed the president that he has quite a fruity lifestyle for a man that's apparently running a theocratic Islamist state. So it's where is he? Who are they actually negotiating with? So look, it's clear that they've been bombing. The ceasefire is not holding. They have been bombing Iran overnight for 2 nights now. Something's got to give in the tactics. It's clear that Iran has been negotiating in bad faith for 47 years. There's no reason why they're going to start now. And it does seem to me that the tactics do need to change. And once again, look, Donald Trump doesn't have the political capital, especially in an election year. He's got the midterms in November to be deploying U.S. troops on the ground. That said, he needs to break the stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz that the Iranians have, because, again, in an election year, gas prices, petrol prices, as I should say, are incredibly high comparatively from where they are. They're not quite at British levels yet, but they're going up. And so that is a very toxic electorate issue. So he's sort of caught between this hard place of political reality, and the fact is, what his current plan of hoping they're going to negotiate and bringing him to the table is not working, not least because he was the biggest critic. Donald Trump was the biggest critic of Obama and Biden's handling of Iran. He made it a big election issue in 2016 of the fact that Obama, gave the Iranians funds, released some sanctions. So his deal needs to look very, very different from previous deals. And at the moment, what seems to be on the table looks like Obama 2.0.
Interesting. Harry, it's fantastic to have you on the show, as always. Come on again next week, eh? Enjoy the World Cup, by the way. He's over there in the States, of course. That's Harry Cole, editor-at-large of The Sun newspaper. He's also the host of Harry Cole Saves the West. Saves the West. He's got his work cut out, I would suggest. Now, he alluded there to the Makerfield by-election in which Andy Burnham is standing, of course, which means that I have to read you... I'm not blaming Harry, it's one of those things. I've got to read out all the candidates in that by-election due to broadcasting rules. Here we go. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, the Labour Party, Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party, John Dyer, Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Alan Howling Lord Hope, the official Monster Raving Loony Party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. That's it. Let's go to break. When we come back, Kinsey Schofield. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I always say at this point we're going to go live to the west coast of America, but I do believe she's in our fair city, London, right now, and she is our brilliant royal guru, Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. You've been to the palace today, haven't you? How was the Queen?
I have. I met the Queen on Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to trooping, and then I'm going to go to Order of the Garter in Windsor. So I've got all my fascinators, all my hats. I've got all my little dresses. I'm ready to spend more time with the King and Queen. I'm having a blast.
They'll be delighted to see you. Just before we go on, Kinsey, I've just got to break some breaking news. Sir Keir Starmer, folks, has insisted a key defence funding plan, and I'm quoting the Prime Minister now, will provide the resources our military needs to keep us safe, in a letter to John Healey, who the Prime Minister said he was sorry to see resign as Defence Secretary. So something like getting on for 7 hours after the Defence Secretary resigned, the Prime Minister has finally responded, sent him a letter, but we still don't know. We still don't have a Defence Secretary in these very perilous times. Extraordinary situation. Let's go back to Kinsey. Well, Kinsey, what I wanted to talk to you about... are you there, by the way? Are you there?
I am.
Yeah, there you are. Yeah. Was this extraordinary saga of the last couple of days. Now, Prince Harry, for some reason, for reasons best known to Time magazine, has been named in the 100 most influential people in sport list. I mean, you know, the Invictus Games is great. You know, it's very laudable, his games for wounded military veterans. You know, we all support that. Well done, Harry. Very laudable. But is it a massive sporting event? No, it isn't really, is it? It's not exactly the World Cup or Formula One. And yet, Time haven't you know, given him this totally undeserved accolade. As I said, it's the most ridiculously undeserved accolade that Harry has received since John Travolta made him a legend of aviation when he couldn't even pass his helicopter pilot's test. That notwithstanding...
Well, I was going to say Pat Tillman, who literally sacrificed his life for our country when he went up and accepted the Pat Tillman Award against Pat Tillman's mother's wishes at the ESPN award show. That I think is something that we could compare this to. Clearly, they are looking into the old strategy playbook, which is garner attention, positive headlines through these trophies that we can clearly see they didn't earn. They are, you know, PR pursued and given to them. They have a long relationship, Kevin, with Time magazine. When they initially left the British royal family, remember the actually really odd photo of Harry and Meghan on the cover as the most 100, one of the most 100 influential people
in the world.
Yeah, and remember, like, Meghan's hair was huge. Meghan's hair was huge, and Harry was kind of peeking around it, and everyone joked that he looked like her hairdresser, like making sure that she. Yeah. But
Kinsey, I've just got to say, hair is a very touchy subject for Harry. He hasn't got much of it left.
True. We should be gentle. But so they also had Meghan recently sit in on multiple Time conferences where she sits down and pretends like she's a female entrepreneur and will break down what her strategy is or lack thereof. So this is just one of those things that we have to kind of sit back and laugh at. It just jeopardizes the credibility of this publication. But at this point, how much credibility do they have when they continue to engage with this couple that have proven little to no value when it comes to their true contributions to the world of philanthropy?
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And what's more embarrassing is the way he happily accepts these accolades as if he deserves them. He is not one of the 100 most influential people in sport, not by a long chalk. He's not even the most influential person in his own home.
No.
But, you know, he did get a bit of, a good write-up, bit of positive publicity. This is my theory. Meghan looked at that and said, right, I'm going to get those headlines back. And she, straight after his Time magazine moment, I mean, within... an obscenely short space of time, she drops this massive photo dump on Instagram, and we're just looking at them now if you're watching on TV. For no apparent reason, she said something about springing into summer. Spring's over, summer's starting, and there's all these weird pictures.
Can you imagine the Princess of Wales taking a picture of her chest and her crotch?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what we were just looking at, Meghan Markle's Canadian tuxedo. She's showing us her crotch and her chest. I mean, it's just so unedifying. It's so undignified, and it's not something we expect from somebody that insists on being called a duchess.
Exactly right. And so these pictures, there's this weird picture. Of course, we don't get to see the kids' heads. We see they're either sort of decapitated here, photographically, of course, or the traditional pictures from the back of their heads. But we got Lilibet in this weird, dirty T-shirt that says B is for Beyonce. Then we've got Archie playing around with a big outsized soccer ball in the Montecito grounds, I assume, with Harry. But then there's this very strange picture, I think supposed to denote just how much the gruesome twosome are in love, from behind of them with their arms round each other. And it's black and white, very moody, very arty, actually. And then we discover, I think she forgot to crop the date out, this was taken in 2017, nearly 10 years ago.
So then you're sitting there asking yourself, like, does she think that we're convinced that this is a new picture? Is she having to go in the bank to find these lovey-dovey pictures? Why can't you show a recent picture of you and your husband loved up? Why are you having to throw in, something that's 10 years old?
Yeah. I mean, but I think that the overarching conclusion that I draw from this was that Harry was getting sort of basking in the warm glow of a bit of rare good publicity. She spotted that, said, right, I want the headlines back, I want the column inches. She dumped this, and I guess it's mission accomplished, because here we are talking about it. Everybody's talking about these pictures because they're so sort of disarmingly weird, aren't they?
They are, and I'll tell you, I was on the cover of Entrepreneur magazine when I was 25 because I had a company where I was a celebrity ghost blogger. So I managed celebrities' social media channels, and I can tell you exactly what I think she was doing with this dump. It's very similar to the kind of content we get from Olivia Rodrigo and some of these younger pop stars. She's trying to counter the perfectionism criticism that she received throughout with Love Meghan. We were always like, she's wearing white while making spaghetti. This, Lily in a messy shirt. Some of these like, oh, look, randomly, it's my Canadian tuxedo. I think she's desperately trying to say, look, I'm real. Look, I'm authentic. But it's coming from her. So ultimately, we know it's the opposite of that this is a highly curated carousel to try to paint an image that she wants us to think about her, because nothing she does is authentic and nothing she does is real or sincere.
Yeah, and it's as if, she sees anyone else getting attention. She can't stop herself trying to divert that attention towards herself. She believes she should be the centre of attention. So she sees Harry getting a few nice words, few nice headlines, can't take that, immediately dumps these pictures so everybody starts talking about Meghan. She even begrudges her husband getting a good publicity, let alone William, Kate and the rest of the royal family over here in Britain, who she despises.
Are you surprised we see it every Invictus Games? You know, Meghan is the star of the Invictus Games, and when she is no longer the star of the Invictus Games, she will literally pack her bags and go home prematurely. When it stops being about her, she will leave Harry solo to carry on the Invictus Games. So I'm not surprised by that. But in each one of these pictures, I kind of see what she's trying to do. The couple picture, she's trying to say, look, we're strong. In the picture with Archie and Prince Harry, she's countering all of the commentary around the fact that she seems to prioritize Lily. She's always talking about Lily, always posting about Lily. Where's Archie? So each one of these posts has a meaning. But I do think ultimately she's reaching for that authenticity that we are seeing from these younger, more relevant stars. And again, I offer the example of Olivia Rodrigo because she does these kind of dumps on social media all the time with very little background or explanation on what you're looking at. But I think she's just trying to reach a younger demo. I mean, maybe there are meetings going on at As Ever where they're like, we can't sell this stuff. We've got to reach a different audience.
Tell you what, Kinsey, once again, you're right on the money. There's no doubt about it. Great to have you on the show. I'm glad you're enjoying London and our wonderful weather, and we'll talk again next week. Kinsey Schofield, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, over here in London at the moment. She went to Buckingham Palace today. She moves in high places, in high circles, of course. Great to have her on the show, as always. Let's go to break. I've got some bullet points from this reply letter that Keir Starmer has sent to the Defence Secretary, the former Defence Secretary, John Healey, who sensationally quit earlier today, saying that Starmer's policies were forcing him to pursue policies that he felt endangered the nation. Starmer's hit back with a load of old waffle, but I'll let you know what it is. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Keir Starmer has replied to John Healey, as I was telling you before the break, in a long rambling letter. The bullet points of this, Starmer's letter claims the government inherited armed forces that had suffered years of underfunding and neglect. His letter highlights Labour's or the government's work on Ukraine, Gulf allies and the Strait of Hormuz, which he says is helping to make the world more secure. Well, never mind the world, what about the country? What about Britain? The Prime Minister also says that defence spending was increased after the Conservatives, to use his words, hollowed out our armed forces. All this like, it's the Tories. Tories haven't been in power for 2 years. You can't blame them. Starmer says he cut the international aid budget and helped fund the highest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. Oh, yeah. A key line in this letter is, he's still saying this, I will always do what is needed to keep our country safe. Honestly, he knows that it's just sheer crap. He is living in an alternative universe. It's deluding himself. You know, John Healey is a seasoned professional, a man of decency, a man of principle, one of the few human beings, sensible human beings in the cabinet. He hasn't quit for no reason. Starmer, You know, come on, do something. As John Healey says, you're instigating policies that endanger this nation. You're making us unsafe, and we all know it. 03444991000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Chris in Stockport. Hi, Chris.
Hi, mate. How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, being an ex-serviceman, basically upsetting the Americans is the worst thing we could possibly do. We're basically the biggest aircraft carrier that they have, and to upset them is futile. There's been Russian aircraft flying into our airspace very recently, and without the Americans' help, I'm sorry, they just walked straight in the door because we have oil.
We need... America is integral to the defence of Britain. You're right. Our alliance, our special relationship with the United States is what keeps this nation safe. Russia and China are wary of us because of our closeness to America. Starmer has wrecked that special relationship. Are we that close anymore? Certainly Russia and China don't think so. That's another reason Healey's gone. He's gone. Healey left, quit today, Chris, because he knows our defence policies are a shambles and that our nation is endangered because of them.
It's very worrying. It really is. This man, I don't know where he gets his logic from. He's obviously not wired right, and why won't he resign? What's the matter with him? Is he mentally ill?
I don't know. He's a very strange man. He's hopeless at this job. I think he's a very arrogant, conceited man. I think he thinks he's good at everything. And he won't allow himself to concede that he's the worst Prime Minister we've had in living memory, and I include Liz Truss.
Yeah, look at Ireland last night. It's going mad. I mean, they won't put up with it, mate. I'll tell you. I worked over there when I was a serviceman.
Yeah. I think they're already showing that, Chris. They're already showing that, Chris.
Something's got to give, mate, and I'm worried.
I'm worried. I'm worried too. I'm worried too. I fear there's going to be serious social unrest going into the summer. I mean, we're a nation that likes to riot in the summer anyway. When the sun's out, we take to the streets and start chucking bottles around and things like that. We've done that for years. This summer, I think it's going to get serious. I don't celebrate that. I don't like that, but I think it's a fact.
No, not at all. I mean, it's just very worrying, isn't it? I mean, he just will not listen to reason.
I know. Well, he won't listen to us at all. That's why there's going to be social unrest. He doesn't listen, and if they do listen, they stare us in the face and say, no, you're wrong and you're a far-right racist.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one, yeah. But it's very, very concerning, Gav.
Yeah, it certainly is. Chris, thank you for your service and thank you very much for ringing in. Chris in Stockport there. Let me read a couple of messages. This is Testy. Testy on Tyneside. He says, new Defence Minister Diane Abbott should be given a chance. If the forces are underfunded, she can make up any figure she likes on her magic abacus. Problem solved. Yeah, Testy, I'm not sure it would solve the problem, but a very amusing idea. Diane Abbott, Defence Secretary. I'll tell you what, I'd rather have Diane Abbott as Prime Minister than Keir Starmer. I really, really would. I'm not lying. I mean that. Anybody. I'd have anybody. My dog rather than Keir Starmer. Come on. He's useless. He's utterly, utterly useless. And now he's bereft because he's lost his Defence Secretary. What are we up now? Coming up for, is it 7 hours? 7 hours almost since we've... 7 hours. 7 hours without a Defence Secretary. It took him 6 hours to respond to John Healey's resignation lesson. He's in turmoil, I'll tell you that. We're going to break in a minute, but let's first talk to David in London. David, do you want to talk about the World Cup and the BBC? What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I'm just wondering whether the reason there's no studio, is it because it's the men's World Cup?
You're so right. If it was the women's football, football World Cup, the BBC would have 50 studios over in the States. Exactly. They really would. And I keep saying, David, you know, this is an organisation, this is the state broadcaster that sends 500 people. 500 staff every year to Glastonbury, to cover Glastonbury, but they can't set up a studio in America to cover the greatest sporting event in the world. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
Or if it was an LGBT World Cup.
Oh, they'd be over there like that. They'd be building studios. I mean, you're so right. Their priorities are all wrong, David. You're quite right. Absolutely agree with you. Very funny call. Very good call. Thank you. David in London suggesting that the BBC, if it was the Women's World Cup, the BBC would have a studio over there. But, you know, horrible men. Let's not waste any money covering that, eh? Let me know what you think. 03444991000. We're going to break now. When we come back, we'll take more of your calls and I'll read some more messages. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Peter Cardwell will be in the studio in a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for you between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. But a couple of messages before we go back to the phones. This is Carl in Cornwall. Hi, Kev. Great show. Thank you, Carl. Maybe the BBC not going to America has something to do with the fact that they and Donald Trump have real issues with each other at the moment. Maybe they haven't bothered to apply because they think there's a possibility they'd be blocked from entry. Just saying. It's an interesting thought, Carl. This is Matt in Grimsby. He says, BBC are reporting from Salford because they do not dare show their face in America after what they did to Donald Trump with that panorama footage. It's an interesting point. This is Andrea in North London saying, I'm delighted the BBC are not spending my licence fee on unnecessary studios in America and sending hundreds of people over there. What difference does it make whether they are or whether they are there or not, and how flashy the studio? What am I missing? I'm guessing that Andrea is not a football fan. They should be there, Andrea. You're absolutely wrong. I mean, it's not that they're not there. They've got staff over, they've got reporters, presenters over there, but their main studio is in Salford. You're wrong about that, the BBC owes it to the people of this country to be there in force, and they're not doing that. This is from Mark in Croydon. Can you imagine the loony left if England wins the World Cup? Will they bring themselves to wave the flag? No. They're currently telling residents in the West Country not to hang out the St George's Cross flag, because that might intimidate the local migrant population. Isn't that special? You know, if I'm hanging out a St George's Cross flag, you know, on my balcony or out of my window to celebrate or to cheer England on in the World Cup, and the local migrant crisis, the local migrant population don't like that, I don't care. We shouldn't care. It's our country. We can fly our flags. What the hell is this nonsense? Right, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to John in Rotherham. Hi, John.
Hi, Kev. How are you doing?
All right, mate. You want to talk about Healy?
Yeah.
He's a man of principle. You don't often see this in politics anymore.
No, you don't. You know what? I'm absolutely furious with this government today.
Yeah,
I mean, John's my MP, and he has been.
Oh, is he? Is he? Yeah.
Okay. He is. Yeah. And
which is is that constituency called Rotherham, or what's it?
Yeah, Rother Valley, I think it's called.
Rother Valley. As he's your MP. Yeah. Okay, great. So carry on. Sorry.
Yeah. And I've met him a few times, and he is a decent guy. He's one of the few sat around that cabinet table that's got half a brain and a modicum of decency about it.
Totally agree.
And for John to have resigned, you know, it clearly it makes a statement, and I'm furious with this government. I mean, the other thing as well is there's rumours today. In fact, the Speaker himself, I believe, has made a statement in Parliament today about rumours that the government are going to try and release the defence investment plan this Friday when Parliament isn't sitting.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. I didn't know that. That's unbelievable.
He's furious with the government. I've actually listened to him this morning in Parliament, and that just says everything about this absolutely utter incompetent government. How are we going to get rid of them?
Yeah, you know, they're all bleating. All the lefties in the Labour Party are now already bleating. Oh, you know, they want money for defence. What about schools and hospitals? Yeah. Look, schools and hospitals are incredibly important, and we must fund them as much as humanly possible. Of course. But let me tell you, here's a fact. Here's an uncomfortable fact. At this time, in fact, at any time, but particularly now with the world in such a perilous state, I'm sorry to say this, but this is a fact. Schools and hospitals, in terms of budget and spending, they're not as important as defence. Nothing, as Starmer keeps telling us, is more important than the safety of the nation. So don't start bleating out, what about hospitals? What about schools? They're important. They're not as important as defence spending, right?
Absolutely.
You know, it's just so, it's the socialist chorus, isn't it? Oh, what about the NHS? Shut up.
The quicker they're gone, the better.
Yeah, oh, God, it's so frustrating. I'm with you, John. But respect, I'm with you also about John Healy. Respect to John Healy, a man of principle who resigned on principle, something you don't see very often in Westminster anymore. Good for him. And a really good call from you as well, John. Thanks for ringing. John in Rotherham. Rotherham. I went all American then, didn't it? Rotherham. Let's go to Francis in London. Hi, Francis.
Yes, I mean, I called up. I mean, one thing I find very funny is you seem to have, a soft spot for Mr. Donald Trump, but then you castigate and condemn the Starmers. I'm no fan of Starmer.
Yeah, I do. I much prefer Donald Trump to Keir Starmer.
Oh, really?
Next.
Oh, you mean you like a paedophile, do you?
He's not a paedophile. He's not a... Don't make illegal... He's not a paedophile. Look, all right, Francis, get the hell out of my show. Go away. Let's go to Pat in London. Hi, Pat.
Oh, yeah, good evening. Look, there's a couple of things, one about the World Cup and one about, like, the Defence Minister and stuff. First, the Defence Minister, he's had to resign because he can't get nothing done.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because he's resigned because he says that the policies, in other words, the insufficient funds that he's getting, make it impossible for him to give the armed forces the money they need. And he says that Starmer's policies, this Labour government's policies, are endangering the nation. There is no greater indictment of a government than that.
Right. Well, keeping on that subject, I mean, I read on the, like they've got on the mobile phone, they get like pieces of information. Well, China are building 100 combat jets a year.
I'm surprised it's that. I'm surprised it's that few.
No, I'm just saying. But the Americans' F-22 Raptor has stopped. Production has stopped at 184 aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, hang on. What's this got to do with us? Where are we going here?
What I'm trying to say is that by 2030, it is with the jets they've already got. And the jets they're building, it could be close to 1,000 combat aircraft. China could have close to 1,000, and that
of course they are. They're a massively powerful economic nation. Of course they got a massive military. So is America.
What would happen? It would be basically. It wouldn't be about the quality of their jets. It would be.
No, their jets are very good, and so are the American jets. Don't worry about that. Our problem is we haven't got any.
Right. Well, we have got a few about...
Hardly any. Hardly any.
About 100, basically. It's about 100.
Yeah, so what is the point you're trying to make, Pat?
Well, what it is, a war with China, right?
We're not going to go to war with China, not unless we're suicidal.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if China went into Taiwan, we'd be expected maybe to throw
forget it. We won't do anything. We'll do about as much as we did about Iran. Your problem there will be whether or not the States... Don't worry about us. We are a military minnow. We're not involved in any of this. We haven't got any military... Pat, I've got to move on. Thanks for calling. Pat in London. Let's quickly talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hello, Jill.
Oh, hi, Kev. Oh, gosh, it makes me so angry listening to some of these people. I'm sorry. I know they're talking to you, and I know that but I'm so cross with the fact that this country doesn't have a defence. We don't have.
I know. That guy just saying, we'll be required to go, to take part in a war against China. No, we won't. We haven't got any military resources.
No, and we haven't. And yet, Keir Starmer will hop on a plane, or he will get them over here, and he will give money to Ukraine to defend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Ukraine, the God Almighty Ukraine. We've got to keep giving them as much money as possible, as many of our weapons as possible. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Just sick of it. We had a really good... many years ago. My husband is ex-military, so I'm sort of saying it. But I just feel that he's putting this country at risk.
Well, that's exactly what John Healey, the resigning Defence Secretary, said. You're pursuing policies that force me to put this nation at risk, to put this nation in danger. Greatest possible indictment of a government, Jill. Jill, I've got to go. The show's nearly over, but thanks for another great call, as always. Jill in Cornwall, Peter Cardwell's in the studio. Quite a day.
It certainly is a day. There are two big developing stories that we'll be covering. One is the fact that Trump has said that he's now not going to bomb Iran, which has developed in the last few minutes or so.
That should make a few bucks on the market,
I imagine it would. Northern Ireland as well, Belfast could be set for a third night of violence, but the main story today is, of course, the Defence Secretary resigning. And that damning letter, Kevin, you've been unable and the Treasury has been unwilling to commit the resources that the nation needs to defend the country at this time of rising threats. Absolutely damning. We're talking to the former head of the Army, Colonel Richard Kemp. We'll be speaking to the former Defence Secretary, Gavin Williamson, and Labour MP, Graham Stringer, as well, and where this leaves Keir Starmer.
Great stuff. Stick with Peter all the way to 10 o'clock. I'll be back tomorrow at 4. See you then. Oh, no, we've got...
You have another minute. You have another minute.
Bye.
You have another minute.
Hello, I'm Kevin. That's Peter. Seriously...